validation, now I validate myself. Building inner strength, putting doubt up on the shelf. No more unnecessary drama, no more wasted time. Climbing higher constantly, making my own climb. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. My network is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. Every interaction is a reflection of my brand. Quality over quantity, that's my personal command. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. Whoa. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield. Standing on higher ground, where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds. Raising the bar, breaking ground. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision. Cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield. To mediocrity and chaos, I will never yield.
Ooh, delayed. How you doing there? How you doing, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to This and That. I'm your host, Xander, where we're talking about this, that, and everything in between. Got a little bit sluggish on the trigger pull there. That's okay. Uh, we are actually a couple minutes late, but I was sitting here when it was time for us to start. I just waited 45 seconds before I hit the start button. Either way, we do not let the sunrise without going live, but we don't always start on time, and that's why we ask you guys to like and subscribe, and then hit the notification button so that you know when the show goes live. We ask you guys while we're doing a live show that you guys match those reaction buttons, and after the show, take your time to go and double check the membership because we got a lot of stuff being released on the membership in order to aid you guys in being successful. So uh, today being Wednesday, we're going to be talking about different countries around the world, but we're gonna give you guys kind of a little bit of a debrief. We have special shout out to Daniel Barris. He says, "Sup, happy Wednesday" during the show while we're doing the intro, and then special shout out to OG Kicks, always representing the podcast. I know Steven's gonna pop in here in a moment. Um, there's been a lot of things going on, so I haven't really gotten all the information coordinated together, but it looks like we're going to have us a thick topic for this upcoming Monday. And we haven't seen the gas prices go down much at all recently, but I understand, like me and Michael have been telling you guys when we were evaluating the situation, that it might take 3 or 4 months after the war subsides before we start seeing positive impacts, because we have the inflation of summer activities offsetting the de-escalation of prices from war activities. So the two are washing each other out, and we're probably going to have a little bit of stagnation until the end of the hot season, so late September, early October, and then we'll start seeing, in my observations, a decline in capital where we might, or not capital, but cost, where we might actually find ourselves in a position where gas prices might start getting closer to that 225 projection. As it is right now, I've seen it at 357 for the cheapest gas out here, and 355 in other areas, which is cheaper than what it was when it was 389. So that means it went like 30 cents down. But I feel like it might get closer to 325 by the beginning of August at best. And we might see a further decline, like I said, in September when it starts getting closer to 289. And then, in October when it starts getting closer to 250. I feel like that's going to be the time span in which we start seeing some improvements with the fuel prices. Now, what I recommended to you guys before is that once those fuel prices start becoming dirt cheap before any of the bullshit happens, that you guys go ahead and take it upon yourselves to double down by buying 40-gallon fuel cans if you can store it and store that gas at your house, and delay the requirement to refuel, because a 40 gallon fuel tank for cars that have 10 to 15-gallon gas tanks is 2 to 2.5 tanks of gas, which allows you to refuel 3 times before, or top the car off 3 times before you have to deal with the new gas prices. Um, if you're circulating your gas like that. If you're just going to get it and hold it and just use the cheap gas until you start seeing high gas prices, then you can have a situation where you have 2.5, 3 extra gallons of gas. If you do a 10-gallon gas tank, you got four extra tanks of gas to delay your ability to be exposed by the new gas prices. And I tell you guys, that's a pretty good buffer to have. They're anywhere between 125 and $250 on Temu, and you can find them on Google for upward of between 175 and $350 for some name brand places. But it's worth it to save 50 to $60 a tank for 4 tanks of gas. It pays for itself after a while. And then it's also a good emergency fuel if you're in a situation where the car comes back with no gas in it. You can top that bitch off at the house and then go and do what you got to do. So, which kind of helps with family squackles when you got a partner that brings the car back without refueling it. Um, I know that Trump was having a discussion at one point in time, referencing the possibility that if we don't come to a negotiation or resolution at the end of the 60-day memorandum, that he will allegedly, quote unquote, finish the job. So there is a possibility, because they're only in the discussion phase. They did not sign a treaty. They signed an IOU or MOU, which is a memorandum that claims that we're going to discuss this. So they signed a contract where we agree to discuss agreeing to terms. That's like a promissory note where I'm promising you that I'm going to read the documents when you bring me the negotiation documents. It's not guaranteeing that we came to an agreement. So that's one of the things that's going to happen over the next 60 days. We're like, well, technically, because they did that in June, it's going to be like the middle of August is the end of that 60-day rollover process, which means that if we're not seeing like the full negotiations that they claimed they were supposed to have, then we might see conflict kick back up towards the third week of August, which means that the dissolution of gas prices that we were hoping for is probably not going to happen, because right when they start reducing the gas prices, they're going to spike those gas prices because we'll be back in conflict right in the nick of time for the type of scrimmage that would lead to drafting the 18 to 26-year-olds come January 1st of 2027. So anybody who was 18 to 26 better, do their little ritual and pray that we don't end up unofficially or officially back into military conflict in Q3 of 2026, because that's going to be bad for you guys. Because while we do have a decent number of active military personnel, we also have a decent qualification to draft personnel so that they can receive the basic training necessary to be called to action. And if you get drafted, you end up on boot camp and for 6 months. Yeah, that makes everybody a qualifiable veteran, but shit, you're going to end up looking at potentially serving 2 years of service just because you fit the status quo. Like, I don't know how y'all gonna feel about that, but I already told y'all about this on the show once before. Now, Here on This and That, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between, we cover different content every night of the week, different topics. They all come around the core fundamentals of how it directly impacts you and your money. But you guys got to understand, because when we talk about questions and comments from the fans, y'all have questions about the shit y'all going through, and I tell y'all what I think about it and provide y'all with the detailed information that y'all can look into to try to make different decisions to resolve your situations that preferably a less catastrophic scenario, but more beneficial to your objectives and agendas. Then we have the dynamic of Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays that are usually business and politics. Because I mean, we've got to talk about on Mondays how politics negatively impacts your ability to make, save, and invest money. Then on Tuesdays, we talk about different ways to make money, save money, budget money, and invest money. We also talk about different ways to think about money, different ways to make decisions that indirectly or directly impacts the way that you make your money and the way that you spend your money so that the money that you make doesn't disappear as soon as you get it, right? And Wednesdays, today we talk about different countries around the world that you can invest in. Today we're talking about Luxembourg and potentially go and live in at a more affordable price, right? Thursday, Friday, and Saturday we talk about personal development, self-improvement, relationship topics, socialization, negotiations, building your brand. Then we start talking about promotions, raises, retirement, forced retirement, severance packages, termination, and then building your 20 and 30-year plan. Because I mean, let's be real, guys. If y'all don't know where the fuck y'all gonna be at in y'all future, y'all just not gonna you're not gonna be ready for it. Being young, 20, 40, 35, right? And you having the capabilities to get out there and make it happen. Man, I know what I got to do to make my money, right? I respect that. I respect the grind. But if you know what you got to do today to make that money, and you know that it requires physical effort, you know that that is a young man's career. You also know that if you have the kind of career that requires mental strain, you know that that's a young man's career. Ladies, y'all are in a kind of career that fundamentally functions off of your young looks. You know that is a young woman's career. All of y'all have to recognize that the shit that you're doing right now with between 18 and 41 is not going to be the same shit that you're going to be doing between 55 and 84. You have to ask yourself, what the hell is you going to be doing in 20 years to either make ends meet or not have to work to make ends meet because your needs is already met by a guaranteed source of income that's not government funded. Because you've already seen how Trump had changed the way government funds are being dispersed all across the country where shit is not going the way we thought it was going to go. And now we're in a position where we cannot acquire the same type of benefits from 1992 in 2026. There's stricter requirements. They pulling the rug from under people. We just covered on Monday how government assistance is locked into like 18 to 24 months worth of benefits. And then after that, you got to figure some shit out. You've got the SNAP and TANF programs that putting you into the workforce thing and being more strict about you actually successfully acquiring occupation, not just looking for the occupation. There's so much stuff out there where they're forcing you to earn it on your own or do without. They're perfectly fine with you being homeless if you're not willing to get out there and get it on your own. And the only people that are there actually providing support for are the people who are documented as physically incapable of doing. So everybody who's an able-bodied person right now in 2026 has to be trying to figure out where they're going to be at in 2046. Okay, and that requires you to build a 20-year plan. And a 20-year plan is better than let's try to, oh, we got to hit the lottery today. Oh, we gotta win in the casino this weekend. A 20 or 30-year plan is a slow grind. You set it up right now. You put your money where it's supposed to go so that things get done the way it's supposed to get done so that you're satisfied with your future. Like I told y'all yesterday, I was talking to one of my neighbors, and I'm like, man, shit, all you got to do is just look at one or two things that you just don't need to do. That's a personal choice. That's a habit or a social experiment or whatever the fuck you want to call it that costs you money. And if you just stop doing that one fucking thing, you could put that money in another location where you start making money, make money for you, and your ass is no longer broke. You no longer living from paycheck to paycheck. You no longer borrowing against a stone. You no longer have to rob Peter to pay Paul. You no longer have to tap somebody on the shoulder and ask for nothing. You can build your own generational wealth. You can build a revolving income where you're living off the interest, not living off the principal. Because when you live off the principal, you got to go back out and make the principal back over again. A lot of the old ways of investing is to put your money into growth stocks, let that shit grow. And then when it's time to get your money back, you sell, pay taxes on the sale, and then live off of that. But I done told y'all plenty of different ways where it's like, bro, you can just build you the type of portfolio that just pay you to have it, where you don't got to sell shit, and then you just pocket the extra money, and you can set yourself up in a way where you can borrow against that and pay for certain things, and take the dividends and pay back the loan and not have to struggle. Get you $100,000 scenario, get you borrow 50 grand against it. Go and buy yourself a 20 grand car. Take 30 grand to pay your bills for 2 years. Let the brokerage account pay for the loan. By the time the 30 grand run out, you own everything. By the time the 30 grand run out, the loan paid off. You can borrow another 50 grand and do something else. You know, but people don't think about that. The wealthy stay wealthy because they don't spend money unnecessarily. They borrow against their assets, spend the loan money on personal desires, and then take the profits from their investments and pay off the loan, which is a tax deduction. So instead of them giving Uncle Sam money, they keep it because they're paying back their debt. They don't run from debt. They use debt as a tool to make money, make more money for them. I didn't cover it on the show 3 or 4 times, this time last year, matter of fact, about how to leverage loans for profits. Find yourself in a situation where you have a low interest rate on a loan, borrow that money, put it in a situation where the money is at a high interest rate return. The money you owe versus the money you make has a difference between the two, and that difference between the two is your profit margin. 4 to 7% loans on student loans with 15 to 20 something percent interest on a brokerage account. That gives you a 7% difference, which means that you pocket 7% difference off of somebody else's money. You what $100,000 and $7,000 of it is profit a year for holding their money. You paid them back and you keep the 7,000 a year and you keep the 100 grand principal. That's not stuff that people talk about on a regular basis. That's what we talk about here. So y'all got to think about doing things differently than the way y'all used to do them, you know, because we typically put a lot of effort into instant gratification. If I'm going to make a big money move, I got to get paid now. If I'm going to put effort into something, I got to see the results now. We need to start focusing on long-term gratification. If I want to see myself somewhere, like take for example, the average American doesn't have a passport if they don't leave the country. But if you wanted to leave the country in the next 10 years, you need to get your passport. In order to get a passport, you need your birth certificate, social security card, a lot of other information. You need to get that information before you get the passport. You're not supposed to get this stuff the year you're trying to travel. You're supposed to already have this stuff. And then this stuff ain't cheap. Some places birth certificates almost $500 to get a copy of the birth certificate. You might not have that kind of money. You might have to save for that. So if you want to go to another country, it might take you 2, 3 years to get prepared to get there. Certain countries, underdeveloped, you might need to get a whole shit ton more vaccinations than what you planned on getting. You got to set up some extra doctor's appointments, get you a physical and shit. There's a lot of stuff, and that stuff got to be done within 6 months of leaving, right? So there's a whole preparation phase. It's not just pack your bags and figure out what clothes you want to wear to go somewhere. There's so much stuff that you want to do. Then what if you're traveling? What if you travel and you got pets? Are you going to leave them at home? Are you going to board them? How many months are going to be gone? Are you going to take them with you? If you got to take them with you, or do you got to get extra shots for them? If you're going to get extra shots for them, do you have to quarantine them when you get to where you're going? How long is your trip going to be? Because if it's a 2 week quarantine, you're still going to need at least 1 or 2 weeks to wander around. You got to really figure out where do you want to be at in your future. And this is just talking about a damn vacation. This ain't even talking about permanent moving to another country like what we talking about today. Dude, we just talking about, hey, maybe 3, 6 weeks, 9 weeks in another country and then come back. Who's paying the bills while you gone? Who's mowing the grass? Who's collecting the mail? You know what I mean? This is the stuff that we don't talk about. This is the stuff we don't talk about. But if we prepared for these things, are you going to leave the car at the house or are you going to leave the car at the airport? These are the things that we don't talk about, right? And because we don't talk about these things, we don't come prepared. You know, they do got some airports where they got like an online payment system. So if you was trying to go to the airport and leave your car at the airport, so it's safe at the airport instead of like unsafe, and I can't really say that it's truly safe because people steal cars from the airport all the time. But they typically steal the rental cars from the airport. They don't steal old school 25-year-old hoopty rides. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, it's the principle of the fact. If you was trying to drive to the airport, leave your car at the airport while you out in the country, so that you could drive yourself back to the house when you get back into the country, you got to factor in how much it costs per day to leave your car at the airport, and if leaving it at the airport is cheaper than catching a cab to the airport. I know when I took my most recent trip, I realized it was cheaper to drive to the airport and pay the all day stay, especially since I have handicap plates, because they charge me half price. So I spent $10 to leave my car at the airport all day instead of spending $20 to $40 to be dropped off at the airport and another $20 to $40 to be dropped off back at the house. Right. So you have to factor in opportunity costs. So planning your 20 or 30-year plan for retirement requires the same detail to your expectations. Like, do you want to eat ramen noodles in your retirement, or do you want steak and lobster? You know, do you want home cooked meals every day, or do you want to eat out every day? Because even if you're eating expensive foods at the house, eating out and eating mid grade foods is still more expensive than eating at home high grade food. Steak and potatoes at the house is cheaper than burgers and fries in the streets. So are you trying to eat out? You know, Chili's, TGI Fridays, Ruby Tuesdays, every day of the week, or are you trying to cook at the house? You know, these are the things that you have to ask yourself when you start thinking about what does my retirement look like. You know, and I tell y'all on a regular basis, giving me that uh, Miss America pageant answer. Oh, I want to be happy. I want to be healthy. I want to be stress free. Those are byproducts of your decision making skills. So, what decisions are you going to make to accomplish that? In order for you to be in good health, you should probably have a health savings account created right now. You should have an international health insurance policy that you have access to right now, and preferably find one that's better priced than the local health insurance policy that you have right now, so that when you don't have to worry about changing over when you leave countries, because if you have an international health insurance policy, guess where the fuck that motherfucker works? Right here. So you get that shit together, and your health savings account tax deferred, but that's going to be paying for your old age when you reach that old age. So even though you can get $1 million in a brokerage account, you should have $500,000 in a health savings account so that you can pay for your old age, right? You know, these are the things that we don't talk about. This is the thing. He said, ramen noodles suck big time, bro. Hey, instant noodles, wax noodles, them shits. If you eat them dry, I don't know, but you could take you some ramen noodles, and instead of using the packs that they put in there, you can go get you some pork rub and sprinkling on there, make them taste like barbecue. You can take you some ramen noodles. You ain't got to put hot dogs in there. You could take you some ground beef, chop it up, put it in there. You could take, and after you put the ground beef in there, you can take the butolis, um Cabernet red sauce, and put that on there, turn it into broke man's pasta. You can do all kind of stuff with Roman noodles. Now, if you just take what's in the pack and put it in the plate and go eat it, yeah, this shit sucks. But you can get creative with some ramen noodles. You know what I mean? And ramen noodles is 30 cents a pack. So when you think about a TV dinner, some of the cheapest TV dinners are between $1.87 and like $1.47 a piece. And the average person, the average healthy person that's middle aged is probably eating two of them bitches. So you probably eating $4 a plate, well, $4 a meal for two TV dinners, unless you're getting one of them hungry man meals that's like $5 a box for one plate of food. So you still eating like $4, $5 a plate. But when you eat two Roman noodle packets, you full, and that's 60 cents. Like, so we can talk shit about ramen noodles, but $5 will go a long way with 30 cents a pack for ramen noodles, 35 cents a pack for ramen noodles when you get the 12 pack in a box. He said, I have to say again, I wish this show existed a long time ago. You should dive into membership like everybody else. Because if you think the stuff I'm telling you right now is key to your survival, you should see the legal documents I'll be putting into the damn membership. Some bitches be cross referencing with the attorneys, like, God damn, this dude know what he doing. He said ramen is fine. I still cook bricks with the slim. Oh yes, if you take Slim Jims and you can use the nacho cheese, you can use the Tostitos nacho cheese dip and throw it in there and get you some salsa and put it on top, and then grab you some of the Tostitos chips with the scoop thing in there. Man, you didn't turn you didn't got you a Mexican pasta bowl. He said, I'm gonna heat it up, the iron, boom. And one of the best things about a ramen noodle, you can boil it in a pot, you can pop it in the microwave, or if you got you a metal bowl, you can put an iron on top of that bitch, steaming in a crock pot. There's all kinds of ways that you can hook it up. If you ain't got the means, but you got the material, you can make a way. You know what I mean? It just really requires you to think about other ways to get stuff done. Um, but yeah, I tell you guys on a regular basis that y'all need to figure out alternatives to your end goal. And since nothing ever goes according to plan, what we're doing is we're getting an outline to the blueprint. So it's a step by step of what we think we should try to accomplish between now and the time that we're ready to quit our jobs, so that we can ensure the fact that regardless of what we got to go through between now and then, the 12 trials of Hercules is not going to stop us from retiring at a significantly successful age where we can find ourselves in a position where we don't have to work. We can choose to work, but we don't have to work. And our bills are paid, our stress is gone because our finances are covered, and we have what we need. Now, if we don't fix our lives to where we have enough money to get all the shit that we want within reason, then we can go and get us a little side hustle, start off something on the side and make us a little extra money and pay for the luxuries. But if your stability is your core necessity and you got that under control, you got plenty of time to think about what else you want to do. Pinky was able to talk the brain about taking over the world every day because they didn't have to go to work every fucking day. You know what I mean? So if you don't have to think about going to work every day, you could think about other ways to make legitimate money with less effort. You know, 20% of effort can go towards 80% of accomplishment, or 80% of effort can go into 20% accomplishment. I was talking to a family member the other day where I gave him a couple of assignments. He didn't do what I asked him to do, but he did some other stuff. The stuff that he did was way harder than what I asked him to do. The stuff I asked him to do, he would have been able to get all of it done in a day or two. Some of the things was like 10, 15 minute little tasks, easy stuff. He chose the hardest task. And I was sitting over here looking at him. Why did you grab this 7 day journey? It's gonna take you 2.5 weeks to get the 7 day journey done. When I gave you like 15 different small tasks that you could have done, uh, one task an hour for 10 hours and got 10 things done, and would have accomplished more if you did what I said. But instead, you did what you wanted, and you only did one thing in 2 weeks. And I'm sitting over here looking at you like the other 12 or 15 things I asked you to do that you technically could get done in one day. Your ass ain't even do that. Like, so I can't be proud of you for accomplishing what I didn't ask you to do, because I'm disappointed that you didn't do what I asked you to do. And this actually works in relationships. This works on the job. If you're given instructions to perform certain tasks, you got partners in relationships where, and we're about to get to today's topic, but you got partners in relationships where they'll do stuff. They want praise for it. You don't praise them for it because that's not what you wanted them to do. They're pissed off at you because they didn't get praise for fucking up the rotation. They feel like they did something. They feel like they did something. But if what I needed you to do ain't got done, then how am I supposed to say good job on that? A teacher gives you a test and give you specific instructions on the test. And you do everything except for following them instructions. You get an F on the paper because you didn't follow the instructions. You mad because you did it. You did the test. You answered the questions. Simple instructions like put the answer in decimal form, leave it in fraction form, leave it as a mixed number. You put the correct answer on the paper, but you put it in the wrong format. If you don't follow the instructions, you can fail the test while getting the answer correct. And you can do the same thing in a relationship. If you don't follow the instructions the way they were issued to you, you can fail at life while doing it the way you think it's supposed to be done. Not a lot of people realize that, but that's the way things are. And it is crazy that things are like that. So if we're trying to figure out, because I know that we're working on it, we're piece by piece in the situation. We are piece by piecing the situation. Okay. And since that's the way we're doing things, it is more effective for us to get the outline. You know, I want to own my own cars. How many of them? Two. I want to own my own house. How many of them? At least one that's not generating income. The rest of them can generate income. I don't need a fixed number of how many houses I want to own, but at least one of them that's mine, that's a homestead, so I can get those homestead tax credits, right? Then you think about how big is the house going to be? Am I going to keep it up myself, or am I going to pay a housekeeper? How big is the yard going to be? Am I going to keep it up, or am I going to get a landscaper? You know, automate the utility bills so that if I leave the country, I don't got to continue to log in and make sure that my bills get paid. If I want to travel, what does my travel budget look like? Where do I plan on going when I get old? Right? All of these things have to be factored into the type of lifestyle that you want to have. And if you believe that your lifestyle would roughly run you about a $90,000 a year income, then you reverse engineer that to something like a $900,000 portfolio at a 10% return on investment. But if you fucking with me with the 15% return on investment, you can accomplish that with potentially either 600 or 600 or $750,000. But either way, if you know that that's your final number, and these are the things that you're trying to accomplish to get there, then you can reverse engineer that to say, okay, well, I need to put away like $800 a month to get to where I'm trying to go. I need to put away $900 a month where I'm putting $300 a month in my health savings account and $600 a month in my brokerage account so that I can make sure that my health coverage is covered and my retirement is covered at the same damn time. We ain't talk about that strategy before, right? Because yeah, you can get a life insurance policy and borrow against a stone and set this shit up over here and all of this, that, and the other. But with these life insurance policies, if you owe a balance on the loan that you borrow from the life insurance policy, the policy covers the balance, the difference. So if you had a $250,000 policy and you borrowed $100,000 on the policy and you're paying the policy with interest, then when you die, the policy is going to take the $100,000 that you owe and whatever interest on top of it, and leave the other 100,000 or $50,000, whatever's left over, to the successor, right? So while that's good to do in a way, it also requires you to have a surplus of capital in order for you to borrow against it, where that capital is not paying you on a monthly basis. So if you had a life insurance policy that was being paid for by a brokerage account, that would make a little bit more sense. Because if the brokerage account is paying your life insurance policy, you borrow against a life insurance policy, the profits from the brokerage account is paying on a loan. Where the life insurance policy is backed by the assets of the life insurance policy, so you don't have to worry about losing a brokerage account, which means you can will the brokerage account to the kids, put it in a trust, right? All of these different strategies that exist for your final days. And your final days is not like, oh, I only got a month left to live. Your final days might be retiring at 65 and living to 106. Your final days might be like 40 fucking years of unemployment. You got to understand, everything after 75 is not I'm going to work every day. It is, you know what? My back hurt, my neck hurt, my hip hurt, my knees hurt, my ankles hurt, my hands hurt. When you're in your late 80s, early 90s, I can't even wipe my own butt. I need help getting up off the toilet. When you start getting closer to 100, you got to get wheeled around by an assistant. You know what I mean? And you got to plan for that stuff. When you get too old to walk around on your own 2 feet, who's going to be pushing you around? Is it going to be one of your kids or your grandkids, or are you going to have a in-home nurse? You got a budget for that shit, right? Now, I spent 35 minutes talking to y'all about y'all future. Nobody's parents sat them down and spent 30 minutes talking to them about their future. They talked to them about their college. Go to college and make something out of yourself. Again, a Miss America pageant is answer. Go to college and make something out of yourself. You know, not exactly what are you going to accomplish in college. It's just go there. And by the time you're done, be successful. It's wild. It's wild. But let's go ahead and get started with today's show. Let's go ahead and get started with we're talking about Luxembourg. Because there's this irresistible narrative about Luxembourg. I mean, you know that there's a like a tiny island, it's like a fairy tale country in the heart of Europe, and it's often called the richest country on earth per capita. Right now, it's a place that whispers promises of an incredibly quality of life. So it's an incredible quality of life. There's amazing salaries there, pristine safety, and a social system that's got your back from cradle to the grave. Clearly, there are no minorities here. I'm just throwing it out there. That you go into a place like this, I'm probably gonna be the only one with a tan getting off the plane. Uh, but you know, if you hear those whispers, read the articles, see the pictures of the stunning Grood Valley, the polished financial district, and the charming cobble streets of the old town, you might find yourself sold on the dream that Luxembourg offers one of the best lifestyles in the world, a place where everything just works, right? So we decided to put this dream to the test. If you were to go to Luxembourg with a very specific challenge, single person actually living in this area and enjoying the famous quality of life on a budget of $3,000 a month. And I always give you guys this $3,000 a month budget. And the reason why I do that is because poverty in America like stops at 30,000 a year on paper, but it actually technically kind of lingers at around $50,000 a year, to be honest with you, with inflation. But the average American is making like $36,000 a year in that gray area because they make too much money to qualify for government assistance, but not enough money to meet the basic needs of an American citizen's expectations, right? However, even though we feel or being treated by society as being poor and broke in a lot of other countries around the world, $36,000 a year, you're rich as fuck. So $3,000 a year or $3,000 a month, $36,000 a year, I evaluate with most countries around the world exactly if and how you can function in other countries with that budget. The same poverty line budget that we suffer with in America, how would you strive, thrive, survive in another country with that same income level, which further encourages you to digitize and automate your income stream. Because if you're working in a brick and mortar business in America, you've got to get in your car, drive to work, show up every day, stand around, and get paid for your presence. If you work hard because you got a good work ethic, you work hard. If you're on your phone live streaming with me right now while you're on the clock, then hey, enjoy your hourly wage. But either way it goes, you're getting paid for your presence. You're not getting paid based on the value of who you are and how you contribute to the company. You're getting paid for your presence, right? Now, if you were to create, and I'm going to get back to the main topic real quick, but I'm going to say this in a brief, short scenario. If you were to create an income stream that you can function off of a computer, laptop, or other electronic device that only requires a little connection to some stable Wi-Fi, there's plenty of countries around the world where you can establish your income stream, where you don't necessarily have to quit working entirely. You can just quit working for the person that you don't like, the person that doesn't appreciate you, or just quit working for a stationary company where you can now travel the world and make money and make that money make money for you so that you don't have to uh, um, find yourself idle in any one specific country, right? So if you're able to make and $36,000 a year job is not that hard to make for yourself, right? Because that's like what $1,200 a month, something like that, $1,200 a week, right? So if we think about this though, because we're talking about Europe, if we think about the exchange rates right now, that's roughly somewhere about 2,750 euros. In many parts of the world, that's a very comfortable standard of living. But we're about to find out what's going on with Luxembourg because Luxembourg is not most parts of the world. Now, this is the story of the experiment. Well, this is going to be real brutal financial realities of trying to live in one of the world's wealthiest countries when your salary isn't quite at the top tier. Now, it's going to be less of a story about thriving in this particular country and more of a story about surviving because it is a detailed number by number breakdown of where every single euro goes. And for anyone thinking about moving to a country like this, the answer is both shocking and absolutely critical to understand. Now, the dream for today's show is simple: move to Luxembourg, earn a decent wage, soak up the legendary work life balance and European charm. The budget we're setting, 3,000 US dollars after taxes, which is approximately 2,750 euros in your pocket. Now, the first reality check is going to hit before you even pack your bags when you start looking for a place to live. And within hours of this behavior, you're going to realize that your entire trip is going to be on the verge of collapsing because a standard one bedroom apartment in or near Luxembourg City isn't just expensive, it was a budget annihilating catastrophe. We're looking at prices starting at like 1,600 euros and quickly shooting past 2,200 a month. That's almost all the money. That's not for a luxury penthouse though. We're talking about a basic small apartment. So if you did the math, something like 2,200 dollars on rent, 2,200 euros on rent for a 2,750 euro budget, that's going to leave you with like 550 euros for everything else: food, bills, transportation, heaven forbid, a social life, right? It is immediately, shockingly clear that for us to live alone, living in Luxembourg City, not just going to be tough, it's mathematically impossible. We would likely have to double our expectations and walk into this country with like $6,000. So that's before we start letting panic creep up into us. We've got to make a huge compromise. So before we even start talking about buying plane tickets, we're going to start talking about living in Luxembourg in a different way, right? So we're going to try to afford living near Luxembourg, not directly in Luxembourg. Follow me now. Dig really deep into this because if you get this wrong, your Luxembourg dream is going to be over before it starts. Housing isn't just the biggest expense here, it's the biggest single factor that defines your financial life everywhere around the world, and it's going to control everything. So some people suggest a single person's monthly cost can be around 1,300 euros, and that's going to be before you pay rent. So if your budget is supposed to be 2,750 euros, we're already looking at a tight budget, right? He said compared to the United States, it's not that bad. Ah, trader, comparing anything to the United States is not that bad. Bro, we could have vacationed in Germany during the Holocaust, and it would not be as bad as currently living under ICE rule in America. I could have three blue eyed, blonde haired friends, and we could all go everywhere together during that time in history, and it still would have been a better vacation than being in Chicago and New York with these ICE agents out here doing drive-bys with freaking pepper spray and BB guns. Did you see that on the news? ICE agents literally did one of these with they had a one of those airsoft paintball guns full of pepper spray and unintimidated. Nobody was messing with the vehicle. They were about 10, 15 feet away from the vehicle. All they had up was a video camera, and the ICE agent You see it on the video, arms up and just pop, pop, pop. What? Nobody was blocking the street. They weren't rioting. They weren't kicking off nothing. Nobody threw nothing. They were just standing on the sidewalk watching the man drive by. And he literally boys in the hood and just pop, 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 pop with pepper spray in a paintball gun. That's what we got to deal with in America. So I think that when you say any complication in another country is not that bad. Bro, we could have been in Iran in freaking March, April, and May, and it wouldn't be as bad as what we're dealing with right now. Just trying to throw it out there. Compared to the way we're being treated in America. He said, I noticed that something happened, but didn't read the story. Yeah, I read the story. I read the story. So ICE does have a job to do. And I'm a man of uniformity, so I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, ICE is unconstitutional. No, the shit they're doing on the street is unconstitutional. The design for ICE agents is since you got to America 15, 20 years ago, you have always known that you must apply for citizenship at some point. And during democratic rule, when they gave asylum to people who came into this country through outside of legal channels, where they were protected under the law and they still had the ability to announce their presence and file for citizenship, once you got settled, once you got a house, once you got a job, once you built a business, once you started having kids and grandkids, motherfucker, it's time for you to start becoming a fucking American. You're a first generation immigrant with a second generation grandchild that is a US citizen. It is time to stop. So, under that dynamic, Donald Trump gave you 9 months to either apply for citizenship or get the fuck out. Now, he made it clear by the time he got to the real IDs in May of 2025, that action was going to be taken on deportation in August of 2025. And he gave everybody the ability to get a free ride out if they were not going to get their citizenship applications together. You either enlist or get gone. You cannot tell me that anybody that is still here 18 months after he said that he was going to make it more than uncomfortable for you here if you stay, and you're going to stay and not get your citizenship application started. Now, we understand that if you apply for citizenship, it's not an instant yes. It's a pending application. It might take you 10 years to get the yes. But the whole time that you're in line, you're guaranteed fucking citizenship. So, what harm would it have done when you seen the man get elected November of 2024 and you just put your damn H-1B up there on the damn paperwork in January of 2025 before he got indoctrinated? So by the time he started trying to kick people out in August of 2025, you would have had 8 months worth of paperwork that said, they already know I'm here. This is my citizenship application. So under that understanding, I just want y'all to realize if you ain't properly documented, they're gonna come and get you. They know you exist because you pay taxes, you buy shit, you got credit cards. If you work, you've got a bank account. If you make money, you've got a business. You're registered somewhere. You're just not registered as a citizen. So they know where the fuck you're at. ICE has a job to go to wherever you are and specifically collect you who don't belong here and take you out. Also, we recognize that Donald Trump extended that to any sovereign nation individuals that renounce their citizenship, not the ones that are pretending like they're Indian, talking about some I'm a man of the land and I don't adhere to any of your whatever, whatever, but they never officially renounce their citizenship. So they're American citizens without proper documentation. They don't have their passport, they don't have their driver's license, their vehicle is not registered, but they're swearing up and down that they can do this because it's their right. Your rights come under the Constitution. If you don't administer any respect towards the Constitution, you ain't got no fucking rights. because the only rights that are not covered under the Constitution are covered under the Native American land laws that are under the Indians that have land that is afforded to them strictly by the United States government. That's the only two people. That's the only two laws that we got out there. Outside of that, bro, you not sitting over here trying to say that you're a third country, because we got, I think, from what I understand, two extra sub countries in the United States that are like unofficial, and as long as you abide by American laws, they're not gonna fuck with you kind of countries. But they're like little town that's like, we're not American. We have our own currency. But your ass leave and go to goddamn Walmart and get your fucking groceries. So he said, 90 days fiance. Look, you got, actually, it's not even a 90-day fiance situation. They got the 2-year marriage visa, where if you got married less than 2 years before you bring your wife or your husband over to America, they're on a 2-year temporary marriage visa. And if y'all don't fuck up the relationship, then they can stay in the country as a citizen. But if for any reason that the relationship in and you can prove that that was a sham, like they had tried to fuck out of you, then they get deported if y'all don't stay together. So unless they can prove that they did their part and you fucked up the relationship and they're divorcing you because you're a bad spouse, where they can then not only divorce you, get alimony and the $20,000 guarantee from the government and get their citizenship. The other alternative is get deported. He said, wasn't the whole situation created by the previous administration by admitting 25 million people in 4 years? Um, well, okay, so here's the problem, because when we start talking about, oh, well, it's the Democratic Party, it's the Republican Party, it's this party, it's that party, you know whose fault it is that well over 200,000 motherfuckers was crossing the border every month? That was because the people who were paid to stand at the fucking border and shoot anybody who didn't have the authorization to come across the border wasn't doing a fucking job. Once you get into the country, I mean, what is the United States government supposed to do about you when there was originally laws in place for people who were in a distress situation that was coming from combat, that was coming under asylum, and places like Mexico where you have the cartel, where people flee for their lives, get safety first, and those people get sanctuary and then get citizenship because they came here to start a new life and protect their families from the dangers of where they were. But now you got a lot of people in Mexico that's like, fuck this, I can make money in America digging ditches, and they leave and they just cross the border and don't do shit. So we can't say that it's just the last administration that fucked up the rotation, because you got to remember the whole fucking agricultural portion of our country ran off of manual labor from foreign entities. So the grape pickers, the orange pickers, the banana pickers, the cotton pickers, it was all Mexicans. Ditch diggers, house builders, trenches, electricians, anything that was outside in the sun, hot. I'm not going to do it because I got 5 degrees kind of job, was Mexicans doing it. All right. So they stabilized our country. If we're sitting over here trying to say that the last administration did something wrong, you have to understand that well over 13 million of them was here, and they were not the ones going to jail every day. They were not Glock switches. They were not breaking into houses. They were not sitting on Section 8 and getting stimulus checks and all this other shit. They worked for everything that they had. They put 40 people into a house and everybody pooled their money together and everybody ended up with a Ford F-150 inside of 2 years that they bought with cash that they work for from their job that they work for. Where the average American will live off of somebody, cheat the system, tax fraud, IRS fraud, all these other things, fake an injury so that they can get free checks so that they don't have to work. You have generations of people in the 80s that would make their children take a test so that they could be identified as mentally disabled so that they could get a free check for having a child so that they wouldn't have to work. Each child that you put on SSI to get you $1,000 a month for each child, and you got 4 children, that's $4,000 a month. You don't got to work. You live in a middle class lifestyle because you got 4 children for 4 different baby daddies, and all of them are identified by the United States government as mentally incompetent. So now that you're the caretaker of 4 mentally incompetent children, Now you've got a free check and food stamps, and you ain't got to do shit. This is what American people would do, not Mexicans. So I can't say, oh well, uh, 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 Obama or Joe Biden or somebody, Camilla Harris or somebody fucked up the rotation by allowing these people to come in. No, if you wasn't shooting on first sight in fucking Texas, that's y'all's fault. Now, once they got here, the government was like, look, let them work. They're paying into the economy. He said, I think even Obama security board. That's what I'm trying to tell you. So, but that's not my point. My point is that ICE had a purpose. They were supposed to apprehend individuals that no longer belong here and remove them. The problem that I have is when ICE is traveling from their home base to the destination of their assignment, they are terrorizing American citizens that are not involved in their responsibility to seek and apprehend non Americans or unauthorized citizens in America. That is my problem. If ICE is driving up the street with a mask on and shit, and you whip out your camera and you're recording them as they pass, they will try to fuck with you and terrorize you and force you to go back into your house or beat your ass because you don't want to go back into your house when all you doing is watching them pass through. I think that that is unconstitutional because our First Amendment right to record, our First Amendment right for journalism, our First Amendment right to report what government agents are doing on our streets is our right to do, as long as we're not doing it in a violent fashion. So if we're watching them pass through our streets, 30 SUVs and 3 tanks deep, as they pass through our subdivisions so that they can go pick somebody up, family of 5, snatch him up and bring them to a black site. If we want to monitor what they're doing, we have every constitutional right to do that. They look, let me tell you something right now. I'm gonna tell you some shit y'all ain't even think about. He said the nose picker. Average IQ between 70 and 100. Yeah, yeah, you're right. But let me tell y'all something. Y'all remember Malcolm X, right? Malcolm 10. I love that movie. Look, Malcolm Roman numeral 10. Uh, when the black men was marching down the streets with their rifles, they ain't have tanks out there because these people had constitutional rights to be out there protecting themselves where they was out there protecting themselves. Now, if back in the 40s, 50s, 60s, when black folks was treated like crap, 70s and 80s when black people was treated like crap, they was able to march down the street 50 or 60 black men deep with shotguns and protect themselves inside of the Constitution and inside of the law. What the hell has happened to this country when 150 white boys with cell phones and GoPros is getting drive-bys by ICE agents and getting hit with pepper spray? The pepper spray is supposed to be for self-defense. It is supposed to be for riot control. It is supposed to be for either preventing yourself from being attacked or de-escalation for inappropriate behavior during an overly crowded scenario. And the police officers are doing drive-bys with pepper spray. That require if I was in that vicinity, honestly I wouldn't be able to go live no more because I would have either did some shit and not survived, or did some shit with the jail because you just drove by on me and your vehicle would have been riddled with bullets. I'm telling you, you come around me with that fuckery. I'm an American and I know that they're eventually going to make it to my city and they're going to make it to my state. But the motherfuckers better not come to my motherfucking door. Now, nobody in my house is a non-American, but if they came to my door knocking looking for Americans, that would be the last time I go live because that type of behavior is inappropriate and unnecessary. You know where you're supposed to go. Roll up your windows, lock your doors, mind your fucking business, go to your destination. You're not patrolling the streets to keep the peace. That's what local law enforcement is for. ICE has a responsibility to seek and apprehend people who don't belong in this country. That's all they're supposed to be doing. That is the whole funds that they're supposed to be getting for. When people are stopping them from doing their job, like the riots that used to happen back in the day where they weren't letting the vehicles through, yeah, you get out there and bust their ass, pepper spray them, run them over with the vehicle. They asked for that, but the road was clear in this instance, and this just happened over the last week. The road was clear in this instance, and dude had the audacity to do a drive by with pepper spray. Had we not had cameras, he would have did a drive by with an AK-47. That is a problem that I have. So when you say that, Luxembourg, Europe is, not that bad in comparison to America, the reason why I went down this rabbit hole story in the first place, yeah, any place in the world is not as bad as America because we're like number 135 or 145 out of top 191 countries in the world. So what we're saying is, by that statistic, every category that is considered a best country category, we have probably 40 countries worse than us, but 130 countries better than us in every category that is classified as a good country, as a great country, as a decent country. We're not even in the top 50 percentile. It If one is an A and 191 is an F, we're at a D plus as a good country. We're failing as a good country. So everywhere in the world is better than here. The most destitute, underdeveloped countries in the world is better than here. I think one of the only countries that's worse than us is places like Haiti. But there's only like 40 countries that are worse than America. Well, with Papua New Guinea, like that's like, you know, very few places. He said America is 17 in the most hostile countries out of 200 nations in the world. Okay. So the one thing that we're good at is kicking off shit. This 17 out of 200 countries as the most hostile, but 135 in everything that matters. Healthcare, stable housing, stable income, security. Come on now. And we can't blame the other political parties for that because it took 130 something million Americans to make this country look, feel, and exist like shit. It was not decisions made by the top 500 because they made the blueprint and then passed the blueprint down to 50 states. And those 50 states all had leaders who turned the blueprint into a rule brick. And that rule brick was administered to the general population where law enforcement enforces that rule brick like the Ten Commandments. So it's like shit because probably a good 300 million Americans a year contributed to fucking it up the way it is right now. Partially out of greed, partially out of desperation. And some because we can. Now, if we were in Luxembourg and we're looking for a place outside of Luxembourg, we're gonna go onto a site like Emotop and At Home. These are some pretty good websites, and these are going to be whirlwinds of disbelief when you go there because the numbers are going to be relentless. A tiny studio apartment, maybe 30 square meters, which is probably the size of the room that I'm in right now. Like Bel Air, you're easily looking at 1,500 euros. A one bedroom in a slightly less central but still popular area like Bonneville uh, might drop to like 1,400 euros. But those are rare and they get snapped up in hours. So as soon as you find it, it's kind of gone. So we're talking like 40 to 50 square meter apartments. To put that into perspective, rent of a 1,800 euro on a 2,750 euro budget is like 65% of your take home pay, which is kind of how we get fucked over in America, right? So financial advisors tell you to keep your housing below 30%. And I've been telling people have your whole standard of living below 30%. But your housing, at least the cost of your house, is supposed to be less than 30%. Now in Luxembourg, that rule doesn't just get broken; it get laughed out of the building. And it's not just the rent; the upfront costs are going to be wild too, because it's very common to be asked for a rental deposit of 2 or 3 months of rent. So for that $1,800 a month apartment, you're going to need something closer to 3,600 to maybe 5,400 euros just for the deposit. Then if you use a real estate agency, which is going to be common in a competitive market, you'll owe them a fee on top of that, typically 1 month's rent plus taxes. That's another 2,100 euros. So before you even move in, you could be on the hook for nearly 8,000 euros. For the budget that we were talking about, that's almost 3 months of total income just to get 1 month in the apartment. It's a massive barrier to entry. Now, it's going to become painfully clear that the original plan is going to be flawed. So, since we couldn't live in Luxembourg City, trying it this way, couldn't even afford an immediate suburb, I had to look into a strategy that thousands of people who work in Luxembourg are forced to adopt, which is becoming a cross border commuter or frontier liner. Um, this is going to turn our search to the borders towards places like France, Belgium, and Germany, which are countries I haven't covered yet, as some of the different countries we can live in. The most beaten path seemed to be across the French border. So started looking there in a town called Bonneville, about 30 kilometers south of Luxembourg City. It's not glamorous, just a simple post-industrial French town, but it has one critical feature, which is a direct and frequent train to Luxembourg. Um, and that's going to be the main station. The difference in rental prices was immediate and dramatic. So in Thonneville, we find one bedroom apartments in the 750 to 950 euro range. That was way less than half of what we saw in Luxembourg City. Suddenly the math starts to work again. It was a huge compromise because we wouldn't have been able to live in Luxembourg experiencing the city in the evenings or enjoying the short commutes. Instead, we're going to be spending a good chunk of the day on the train just to get to Luxembourg. But it wasn't the only way to keep the experiment from failing. So we had to just kind of get this done in a way that it could get done. Because where there's a will, there's a way. You just have to have the motivation to get it done, right? He said first and last month's rent plus damage deposit, pet deposit, and a $200 processing fee. I didn't even think about the pet deposit because America has a service animal observation where you get the animals that you bring with you free of fees because they're considered working animals. But America adopts the service animal laws. Service animal laws don't exist in other countries. So while you have boarding privileges and everything to that effect in the airport with your service animal on your way into the country, and your airline might actually respect it on your way out of the country. The country you're going to is not going to respect your service animal. The country that you're going to is going to look at that as a well trained pet. And all the rules around a well trained pet is going to apply to your service animal. So you can't say, oh, well, I'm an American and in America, nah, bitch, this ain't America. And Donald Trump is not going to come and save you. This ain't Camilla Harris, bro. Your ass is stuck. So when we're looking in Donneville, we find a 45 square meter, one bedroom for 850 euros a month. It was an older building, 10 minutes walking distance from the station. Functional, but a world away from the pristine apartments that we would see in Luxembourg. Now, this single decision might save you at least 800 euros a month on rent, and that 850 euro cost is still inside of the 31% of your budget, which is going to be manageable. Now, I want to understand this. If your goal was expectedly to go to Luxembourg, and you understand that you got to put down 8,000 euros to get started. And then you understand that you're probably going to put down 2,000 euros a month. And you understand that you're probably going to get a 90-day tourist visa to get out there. And you understand that you're probably going to spend $2,000 to get there. You realize that if you're going to stay there, you need $8,000 down and then $6,000 or $6,600 to get there, or to stay there for 3 months, then you're looking at potentially like $15,000 to live there. Then you're looking at $4,000 round trip to go there and come back, which is like $19,000 plus $300 for your passport. Now, if you were trying to take a trip directly into Luxembourg, you're looking at a guaranteed $30,000. Well, because after we finish talking about housing, we still have to talk about the cost of living there, food, utilities, everything to that effect, transportation in Luxembourg, right? So these are the things when I tell you guys that you have to plan for your future. If you wanted to go to a place like Luxembourg and you found yourself having to spend 30 grand to spend 30 days in Luxembourg, you might decide to say, well, fuck that. I could spend 3 years in Japan for $30,000 instead of 3 months in Luxembourg. I could spend like 2.5 years in Taipei or Thailand or uh shit, Indonesia, Vietnam, shit. You could at least do 1 year in Seoul in South Korea, uh, uh, a year and a half in the Philippines for that same $30,000. I'm like, you got to start thinking about your options. Steven says, looks like I can only travel there via Zoom. He said, shit, I'm a video call you motherfuckers. I'm not. I'll be goddamn if I'm gonna spend $30,000 to go. Shit, not for 3 months. If I gotta pay 10,000, if I gotta pay $10,000 a month to live somewhere, it better be fucking New York, California, or Texas. Cause what kind of bullshit is that for me to go to another country and I can't even guarantee that it's gonna be better than what it is over here because social classism and racism exist all over the world. My excessively awesome tan is going to get treated the same way everywhere. They're going to look at me like, oh, he's an American, but he's also an N word. Happy to see you. Clutch purse. I'm trying to tell you. Look, got it mad. Now, recognizing that we found a cheap place to go, this is going to pull us back from the brink of financial impossibility. So the dream had been downgraded a little bit from us actually going to stay in Luxembourg to actually staying something really close to Luxembourg. And the brutal reality has arrived wearing a French beretta. Now, with housing situations downgraded but stabilized, the next big question is going to be food. How much does it actually cost to eat in one of the world's richest countries? Research suggests a single person should budget between 300 to 400 euros a month for groceries if they cook regularly. And that feels about doable. So if you plan to cook nearly everything, treat dining out as a rare luxury, supermarket landscape is a perfect mirror of the country's economy. So you have high-end stores like Del Haze and the local favorites, Cactus, which are great but pricey. Fuck, you think I'm eating cactus? But I mean, some people might fuck with that cactus. The closest I'm gonna get to cactus is an autograph from Cactus Jack. But you have mid-tier hypermarkets and auction on the city's outskirts. And then you have the German discount giants, Aldi. We know about Aldi. You have Lidl, which are, by a long shot, the cheapest places to shop. Special shout out to Max the Poser. Uh, so for my experiment, we have to go to places like Aldi and Lidl devotee. So Lidl devotee, we got to go there. We're going to set a street weekly grocery budget of about 75 euros. That's weekly. aiming for that €300 a month expectation. You might go out there, Luxembourg, with your eyes open, liter of milk, €1.45. Dozen of eggs, $4 or more. Simple loaf of bread, $2 to $3.50. Kilo of chicken breast is around $11.50. None of these are individually insane, but they add up fast. You might carefully find your first weekly shopping trip to be about €82, already over budget, right? Over the month, you're going to learn something ruthless. If you bought frozen veggies and planned meals around weekly sales, and you learned that even in Lidl, that you have to be calculating your monthly grocery bill with intense discipline averages out to about $350. Otherwise, you're going to be way over your initial budget. You can absorb it thanks to savings on rent, but I mean, it makes existing in this particular um, country very difficult. Now, let's talk about the soul crushing economy when we start talking about eating out. Simple plat du jour, the daily lunch special, running you 13 to €18. You want a casual dinner for two at a mid-range place? Because who wants to go to Europe or France, the city of love, and not actually go out on a fucking date? Right? Expect to spend around 90 to €100 without fancy wine. Regular cappuccinos, €4. Beer in the bar can easily be €5 to €7. Shit. He says, I have yet to make a grocery list in my life. Look, I'm gonna tell you something. We find ourselves in situations where uh you know what you want. So here's the thing when it comes down to that, Stephen. Men are predictable, women are indecisive. Ladies, I ain't trying to take shots at you, but this is a male driven podcast from the male's perspective, and you'll have to understand the male's perspective. Men find what they like either through exposure from their parents or the relationships that they're in, be it romantic relationships with their romantic partners or the friendships with their homeboys. Somebody introduces them to something, they like it, and that's what they're going to get. You go somewhere, you order something, that's what you're going to get. If you go to the same place every week, you're going to order the same shit. So I don't need to make a grocery list per se. I know what I ate last month, and I know it's not in my refrigerator this month. So that's what the fuck I'm going to the store to get right now. That's how we operate as men. We're in and out of a grocery store because we're replacing what's not there. When we order stuff online, outside of random impulse buys, we typically buy what's missing out of the house. Something gets broken, we buy a replacement. Something needs to be fixed, we buy the tools to fix it. We experience the expansion of a toolkit by the tools required to build the things that we bought. And then we put the tools away because we may never need that tool again until we buy something else that's similar to the last thing that needed to be assembled or repaired. Right. So we do not put ourselves in a position to need a grocery list. Now, if we're in a relationship with an undecisive person, we're going to need a fucking grocery list because I'm going to get the stuff that I know that we're supposed to have in the house. And then you're going to write down all the shit that you want me to get on top of the things that I know that we need. That's where the grocery list comes from. Not knowing that we need stuff and not wanting to forget that, right? If you have children, you're probably going to make a list. The stuff that the kids need are is irregular things. So you gotta write it all down so that you don't forget it. Because God forbid you come back without it and the kids be like, "Where's my whatever the fuck it is?" Oh shit! And then you gotta get in the car and go back to the store and go get it. Specifically that, right? So most men don't make a grocery list, but and then you stay with your father. You don't need to make a grocery list for your dad because you look in the fridge You see what he eats, you see what's missing, you add that to the things that you're gonna go and pick up from the store. So technically, you don't have a written grocery list. You have it in your brain. You remember what was in there. You remember what was taken, and you remember who took it, and you remember how much is left. And when you go to the store, you're like, I'm just gonna get all of this shit. And if you're anything like me, you might double down on some shit like, man, my daddy be eating some good stuff. I'm gonna get two of them. That way I get some too. Yeah, I got two fridges in my house too. I got two fridges and two microwaves and two washing machines. Is that serious? All right. And I'm about to get a second crock pot just to make sure. That's serious. There's no waiting in line to get something to eat, and there's more than enough food for everybody. Shit. Might as well call me two chains. They got two of everything up in this bitch. I know how it is. Um, so if we want to go out there and test sample one of the meals out there and go to a place like the Italian spots like Benevo, and you want to take a friend, uh if you each have a pizza and a soft drink, no appetizers, no dessert, no alcohol, the bill is easily 45 euros. So for two pizzas and two cokes, at this particular moment, you're going to realize that on a budget, restaurants are not going to be a treat. They are parallel universes that you can't afford to enter. One meal like this is going to be like 12% of your entire monthly budget if you're trying to stay inside of a $3,000 a month budget. This is going to be another area where living in France was an accidental win because groceries in France, because we were just talking about places in Luxembourg, groceries in France are generally a bit cheaper, especially for things like cheese and wine. So shopping at a French hypermarket near Bonneville, that's going to help you save another 10 to 15%, clawing back closer to your $300 a month target. The reality of food on this budget is one of the uh, monastic discipline. So you cook at home, always. You shop at discount supermarkets. You learn to love the store brands, and you look at restaurant menus with a kind of detached curiosity because, like, it looks nice, but I ain't trying to buy that shit because you won't be eating there, right? After the gut punch of housing and the constant watch over grocery budgets, utilities feel a bit more predictable, though still a big deal. These are going to be the non-negligibles that just tick away at the background: electricity, heating, water, internet, your phone, right? For an average 85-meter squared apartment in Luxembourg, you might expect to pay something around 220 euros a month for basic utilities. Small place in Bonneville, way cheaper. But these costs are unavoidable. Electric prices in Luxembourg, while often lower than in Germany and other neighboring places, are still a significant cost, even with government subsidies in place to ease the burden for households. He says, number one, that was a good one. What do you mean number one, that was a good one? Oh, you're asking him, have you visited Luxembourg? Or are you talking about one of his previous inappropriate comments? Now, we think about the first bill in France, which bundles electricity, gas, and water, comes to about 160 euros for the month. Now, this is going to be a little bit of a relief compared to the higher Luxembourg estimates, but still another big fixed cost. Nearly 6% of the budget just to keep the lights and the heat on. Next up, going to be your internet. High speed broadband in Luxembourg runs about 40 to $55, 45 to 55 euros a month from the main providers. So you found some French providers. They're going to have you a deal, something like 45 euros, which is in between, right? So in today's world, That's not going to be a luxury. It's going to be more of an essential, right? Especially when you can't afford to go for entertainment. You're going to need that internet so that you can watch us on this and that, talk about this, that, and everything in between. Then there's the mobile phone. If you're not bringing your own phone to Luxembourg from America, where you're paying the American prices, a decent plan in Luxembourg is going to cost like $25 to $45 a month, which is like the same price as a Metro phone in America. But you'll find a French plan for 20 euros a month. It's going to give you enough data and include roaming into Luxembourg, which is absolutely critical. So if we added it all up, outline for the non-negotiables, you've got your utilities at 160 euros, internet 45 euros, phone 20 euros, giving you about $225 a month every month before you bought a single carrot or paid your rent. That money is gone. That 225 is gone. So you add that to the 850 euros of rent, you're right at 1,075 euros. That's almost 40% of your 2,700 euro budget, which is consumed absolutely by the basics. So you haven't even talked about getting around or having a life yet. So for a moment of genuine, unfiltered positivity, one of the most brilliant things about Luxembourg is its public transportation. Because in March of 2020, it became the first country in the world to make all public transport buses, trams, and trains completely free for everybody. Residents, commuters, tourists, doesn't matter. You just hop on and ride. Now, this isn't a small perk. It's a massive game changer financially. This is going to give you a lot of relief because if you live and work inside the country, your monthly transport cost is zero. So you can explore from one end of the country to the other without ever buying a ticket. The network is modern, clean, and efficient. For someone on a budget, it's a lifeline. But, and there's always a big but, the catch for us is going to be the thousands of other frontliners that is uh, going to be on this amazing benefit that only applies within Luxembourg. So your commute is going to start from Bonneville in France. You got to pay for that part, right? And then get into Luxembourg. Oh, you say his joke? Well, it wasn't really. I guess you can call it a joke, but I mean, after our little discussion on Sunday, he should understand that I asked him not to do that, and he should behave on the channel. And when he comes to the channel, he should either be appropriate or listen in silence, but not come and provide inappropriate banter into the comment section. Once he gives his little shout out that he passed through, if he has nothing positive to say, he should not have anything to say. I request that everybody who comes to the channel stay on topic and uh, communicate appropriately and respectfully towards one another. And if you're going to provide arguments, you provide arguments against a claim, not trying to pick fights and argue against each other or take shots at me simply because you don't like what I said. Because we are supposed to be trying to help people learn and grow. So I mean, I know that there's a time and a place for fun, but this isn't the time or the place. And since I've already made that clear to him on Sunday, and today is Wednesday, it's a level of disrespect to come back and attempt to crack another joke because it was strategically asked after about 45 minutes of explaining why I would prefer him not to do that here, that he choose to either not do it and come here and learn and be one of the most successful and richest people in his grade level, or just don't come. I appreciate my OG triple OG dropping in from a year ago. I value them to a degree, but I value them to the degree that they respect me as well. If they're not going to respect me, I don't find the joke funny. I don't even really find it a joke. I really find it an immense level of catastrophic disrespect. Because really, what we ultimately have is that the poser is under the age of 18. It's not supposed to be here at all because this is an adult podcast. for people who are really the it's supposed to be for people over the age of 18. He's like 15, 16 years old right now, and it's an adult podcast for individuals who are supposed to be trying to improve their lives, which is primarily going to end up being people over the age of 30, 25 and 30, when you realize that you made the wrong decisions, fucked your life up, you're trying to fix it, get things better. That's what this podcast is for. This podcast isn't for people who are a dependent of somebody who's got their shit together, and you don't have anybody paying attention to you, so you're going to get attention by negatively heckling a podcast. You will get more positive attention from me. Be the center of attention if you came here and articulate it professionally, appropriately, respectfully. But if you're going to come here and be the class clown in a room that you weren't invited in, after you was asked not to disrespect the channel, that's just rude. It's like walking into a church and cursing out the pastor just because you know that they're having service today. It's not fun anymore, right? It takes away from everybody else who's reading the comments and trying to enjoy the information, do background information, do research, cross-reference what I'm talking about, and then make plans to get stuff done. Because just like when we covered the other day, Stephen wanted to go to Canada. We talked about Canada for 4 hours so that he could plan a trip to Canada, right? This isn't just occupying my free time. I'm providing you guys with common knowledge information that y'all otherwise would not have known where to find it, so that y'all can make this type of decisions that improves your ability to achieve your goals and your dreams and your agendas. This young man has the capability to be better than what he once was. He's known about this podcast for over a year. He knows what we've been doing for the last year, and he understands that he has the responsibility to perform better. If he doesn't choose to improve in his own personal life to be a better person than what he was last year, eventually, when he no longer has the lifeline of his parents' financial support, he's going to find himself failing multiple times in his adult life, in his young adult life. And he's going to find himself in a position where he's 35, 40 years old, coming back to this podcast, trying to figure out how to get his life out of the gutter, where everybody who followed my information is now financially successful. And that's going to be that moment 15 years from now when he's like, man, I wish I would have made better decisions when I was younger. But I'm telling you that you should make better decisions right now. And his father, Joe, came onto the show live. I made a short about it where he made it clear that his kids should be watching the show to learn how to be better. And this was a year ago in September. So there's no reason why. He's only here because his father authorized him to be here, because I was teaching him how to be a better man. That's the only reason why he comes. That's the only reason. So his father would give him allowance money to contribute to this podcast so that he could come here and learn something. So if he's going to come here and act ass, I'm just going to ask him not to come. I'm not going to block him or ban him, because he could actually learn something when he stops being irresponsible. But I am going to ask him that if you're going to come, you can come and listen. If you have nothing positive to say, you get bored, you go find something else to do. But if you talk on the channel, be appropriate and be respectable, right? That's the least you can do. You don't think just because you threw $50 up on a channel that I'm supposed to kiss your ass, because I could cash that check and still block you. So you got to be respectful to the other people who came here to learn something, right? Now, Ghost says, I can vouch. He helps people. Yes, I did. That's all I'm here for. All I'm here for is to help people. I'm not even trying to help people for a profit. I'm here to help people for the sake of helping people. If I can turn a profit off of it, that would be an added bonus for me, right? I would love to be able to have enough people in my membership to cover an entire standard of living for me. I would love to become a multimillionaire through a YouTube channel, right? But at the end of the day, I'm providing y'all with enough information for y'all to be successful. And what I get out of this is that I learn a lot of things that I implement in my own life to make myself financially successful, separate and apart from this podcast. So I practice what I preach to y'all. I learn something new, teach it to y'all, and then apply it in my own life, right? The stuff that y'all wish that this podcast existed 5, 7, 10 years ago, I wish this information was handed to me 5, 7, 10 years ago. I picked up a lot of this information in 2023. So I started getting my shit together in 2023. It is 2026. So I am not sitting over here next to Myron Gaines talking about, so we all made it. No, I'm still on the verge. I'm still on the path of getting to where I'm trying to go. And a lot of people that's coming to the show every day are doing the same thing. You're on the verge of trying to get to where you're trying to go. But every week, every month, y'all see improvements in the channel. Every week, every month, y'all see improvements in my presentation, the performance, the information. And you know that as I grow, you're growing with me. Now, those who don't take my advice, but y'all come and hang out and y'all enjoy life, hey, it is what it is. But those that take my advice, those that take the information that I've got to offer and implement it into their lives, those people have all come back and verified that yes, my life is better because of what he told me. And as a result, everybody that comes to this podcast should only be coming to this podcast for that exact reason, is to learn something that they didn't know was out there to help them make better decisions so that they can get accomplishing of their goals a whole lot better than what they were accomplishing their goals before they met me. Because I don't know what your individual situations are. And each one of the people that's here has got a different problem that they don't like in their life. And not everybody's got the same problem. But everybody has something in their current life that is inside of their control that fucking sucks that they don't put effort into rectifying. Which means all I got to do is just cover it on the show one day. You're like, shit, I could have been doing that. Any increment of improvement that I contribute into your life, that is the legacy that I leave behind. My legacy is the success of the people around me. So a lot of y'all will be able to say that I am to where I am today because this and that was talking about this, that, and everything in between. And I took that and I made myself better than I could ever be. He said, I'm loving life problems and all. You could love life problems and all, but the fact that okay, so I got life problems that I'm glad that I have, right? The kind of frustrations that I wish 10 years ago that I had, right? But that still doesn't mean that you can't be in a situation where you have less stress. It just definitely changed a lot of things in my life for the better. And that's the ultimate goal. That is my ultimate goal, right? If we ride this wave together, not everybody's going to make it to a millionaire in 10 years, but I know a lot of us are going to find ourselves with financial freedom where we don't have to depend on living paycheck to paycheck. A lot of us are going to have financial freedom where we went from working all year, every year, to taking vacations two, three times a year. A lot of us are going to change our lives to be able to afford to sustain a stable relationship without having to go broke trying to do it. A lot of us are going to be able to, if we already have families, be able to better support those families without having to rob Peter to pay Paul and personally sacrifice ourselves and do it out so that our kids and our wife have what they need. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of different things that we can improve in our lives. It doesn't necessarily mean that we have to make it to $1 million. We just have to make it to a less stressful life. We have to make it to a less frustrating life. We have to make it to a less complicated life. And all that requires us to do is to look into alternatives to approach everyday problems that the average American, 76% of Americans actually have. And that's the stuff that I talk about on the show. The shit that gets in the way of us being successful. The things that'll make you say, I'm going to take a semester off from school and a semester from school turns into permanently dropping out. The shit that happens in life that says, well, I'm going to not chase my career this year. I'm going to do it next year, and next year never comes. The shit that happens in life where I was going to get my degree, but now I'm not going to get my degree. The shit that happens in life that you know uh, I had this dream to be something, but now I'm flipping burgers at a restaurant, and the best that I can get is a shift manager position. I went from aiming high to settling for less because shit happens in life. And I'm trying to teach you that you don't got to settle for less. You might not achieve the stars, but you damn sure might be able to catch the moon on the way down. You might not be on cloud nine every day, but damn, you should be on cloud six half the damn time. That's what we talk about on the show. So I asked that Max the Poser, Lucas the Poser, when he comes here, that he be respectful to the channel, be respectful to the millions and millions of people who come to learn something on this podcast. Now, let's get back to the main topic because we're halfway through. Y'all make sure that y'all mash the reaction buttons while y'all here now because we're talking about Luxembourg, we're talking about France, we're talking about Germany. I wasn't expecting to talk about France and Germany today. We haven't covered France and Germany, so I will be putting France and Germany in the upcoming lineup. So you're going to be hearing some of this information a little bit similar, but not the same. Coming up, he said, this that real motivational speaker. And you know what's wild about motivational speaking, because there's a lot of people that they got that vibe where they can just get on the mic and they can just preach and they can just tell you so much shit that'll make you want to say, yes, I want to change my life. And then when you get off of that video, when you walk out of that church, when you walk out of that seminar, when you finish with that motivational inspirational situation, you have two problems. You don't know where the fuck to start, and you have no idea who to ask. And by the time you get in the car and drive back to your house, the motivation to change is gone. But see here, because I'm actually telling you about real life change, the motivational speech that I give you is not just a simple motivational speech. I gave you the blueprint and I put it in the membership. So if you wanted to know the step by step way to accomplish your goal, go log into the damn membership, because Steven will tell you shit's in there. It's in there. Brokerage information, establishing your business information, life insurance information, LLCs, tax information, all the shit that you need to be better than what you was doing. Scholarship requests, application requests. The what else we covered over the last 6 months? I mean, damn, I done put up a lot of stuff. You know what I mean? The girlfriend contracts. I done put up a lot of stuff. You know what I mean? To secure your assets and make sure that you generate wealth. I mean, most importantly, them girlfriend contracts. He said one family trust, two holding trusts, three nonprofit trusts. Yep, I remember covering those. That's what I'm trying to tell you. I put this stuff is in the membership right now. He said four, learning how to manage the trust. I covered all of those things, man. So yeah, I'm not just a motivational speaker for the sake of motivationally speaking. I'm giving y'all the kind of information that make you. And then we was talking about doing it in different countries around the world. I talked y'all about offshore banking. I talked y'all about non-residential trust and non-tax paying countries. You know, I done talked y'all about making a trust under an LLC so that they're not looking at your money on, because the tax trees with the 100 something countries is for personal income, not business income. So if your shit is under an LLC and a trust, they're not going to report it to the United States government, which gives you a lot more privacy than what you would have had if you would have had a trust under a personal bank account. All of the stuff that I talked to you guys about that y'all would have never knew was out there. But this is all public information. Y'all can ask the Google lady and go find that shit. But I found it, and then I brought it to y'all. And then I brought the details behind it. The only thing I didn't do was give you the phone number and the website to go set this shit up yourself. But I told y'all where to go and what to do and how to get it done. Right? He said, learn how to stay broke on paper. Yeah. And then he go with other questions like that. So when I ask him, I say, you know what, just tighten up for me. That's what I ask. You know, because we're gonna learn. We're gonna learn and we're gonna do good. And then after we learn and do good, we're gonna make changes, and then we're gonna find ourselves better off than what we were, and not just better off. We're gonna find ourselves more successful. You know, because right now we got so much change going on in this country right now. This we got 2 more years of change. We have more change now than when we had 8 years of Obama. We got a whole bunch of change. We're not going to necessarily like the change that we're going through, but there's a shit ton of change that's happening right now. These people are moving fast. Donald Trump, what, 200 something executive orders in less than 100 days. This man was putting in work his first 12 months in the office. I'm not going to say that we for or against whatever the hell he was doing, but I know that there's so much change happening in the 4 years that he's in office that the next 25 years is going to be different, right? And that's one of the reasons why I want you guys to just really pay attention to how to improve yourselves. Because since the world that we know is changing so rapidly right now in 2026, everybody who doesn't make $100,000 a year has the opportunity to get their foot in the door while all the shit is cheap. Because until the economy reacts to all of the changes, reformats their business structure, and adapts to the new environment, all of the stock markets are going to be volatile and low. which means that we can invest in that shit. We can afford what used to be $200-$300 a share stocks is like $20-$30 a share stocks, $10-$20 a share stocks. We can afford that shit now. Now we can go and get in there, you know? And that's what y'all need to be doing. Y'all need to be trying to build yourselves up so that when the economy stabilizes 2 years after Trump is out of office, 3 years after Vance is out of office, because from what I heard, there's supposed to be a Michelle Obama slash Kamala Harris 2028 campaign going on in this piece. So I don't know how true that's going to be, but if that turns out to be a thing, you have to understand. We're going to be in a situation where if it does happen, and we had 2 years into no Republican Party in office, and the economy stabilizes, all the cheap ass stocks that we can buy into right now is going to be so fucking expensive because motherfuckers is going to get used to making money because ain't nobody fucking up the rotation. And that's when it's going to be too late for us. So we need to get in there now and start making those changes now while everything is cheap. He says, um, the bank system is going on chain, i.e., crypto, the blockchain. Um, yeah, the blockchain is something. So banks are doing cryptocurrency, crypto, blockchain, and stuff like that. We have the government is going on blockchain. They had the sovereign wealth fund that was supposed to be put into action by. It was technically supposed to go into action already, but I think they said it was supposed to be by September of this year. So by January of next year, the government is supposed to start generating its own revenue from cryptocurrency and other assets that were seized in government raids, and they're supposed to be generating their own profits. Now, they're creating that sovereign wealth fund is not going to guarantee that the United States government is going to be self-funded in the first 5 years of the creation of that sovereign wealth fund. But what it will do, it will put the United States government in a position where over the next 10 to 15 years, we might find ourselves in a position where we're not required to, we're currently technically not really required to pay property to taxes of any kind. We're really just technically supposed to tell the truth when we report it. But um, because we're so pressured by societal norms, you do a Google search, it'll tell you that you're supposed to pay taxes and it's a federal crime if you don't. But the laws and rules around the country, plus the resources that it takes for them to go and audit every single American, you're not likely to get audited if you don't file. You're more likely to get audited if you file fraudulently. Tax fraud and tax evasion comes from individuals who withhold information, file their taxes correctly while leaving out details that could potentially cause them to owe more money. But the people who don't file be 5, 6 years, 10 years not filing, and nothing happens because the cost to go and seize those assets is little or nothing. Because these are people that make less than $100,000 a year. They got shit to take. So if you were to audit and repo, you can't repo shit because they don't own nothing, and they really only seize assets on a spectacle level, which means that you're going to be in a situation where more often than not, if you're a multimillionaire, if you're bragging about your resources, if you're doing YouTube videos showing all your expensive cars online, and oh, I got all of this stuff, and the IRS put two and two together, be like, oh, this motherfucker ain't never told us about his money. They'll come and MC Hammer your shit. But if you living from paycheck to paycheck, you got a bunch of 25, 30-year-old cars, they're worth the amount of money that they would give you $300 to scrap that bitch. If you own a house, that's your homestead. They're not going to seize your house and make you homeless. So they really can't do nothing to you. They're not going to put any effort into coming after you. And that's one of the reasons why it is truly optional, not in practice mandatory, because if you can't afford to pay taxes and you don't file, the effort in not filing is going to cost you to lose your refund. They're not going to waste resources to come and seize something, because what if they got to refund you? They're not going to come after you to give you a refund. They're just going to keep whatever they get on your behalf and just put that towards the budget and just say, well, he owes us more than what he gave us, so fuck it. That's kind of what it is, right? Um, it's almost like the mandatory draft. We was always supposed to register since like the 60s. We were supposed to register, but most of us never knew that. We never when we made 18 years old, we didn't know shit about signing up for the military as a mandatory requirement. I know I didn't sign up for the military. I signed up as an organ donor, but I didn't sign up for a mandatory military service. A lot of us after our first or second car crash don't qualify anyway. But the principle is that we never signed up, and since we never signed up, technically we were all supposed to be court-martialed because we didn't do what we were supposed to do. But because they're not going to waste the resources to do it, it becomes an option. Because one of the things that makes us free is that this country will not waste resources on something that is not significant. And that's one of the reasons why Donald Trump changed the laws and said, well, let's just go ahead and just mandatorily sign everybody up without their consent because shit, they're supposed to do it anyway. So instead of making them voluntarily do it, we're just going to do it for them. That way it makes it easier to track them down. It says, no. You go, and I'm going to tell you the same thing that I told him because he had to go take him a time out. TF Fireball, that if you come into the podcast, you're going to be appropriate. If you're not going to be appropriate, you're going to sit time out with Max the Poser. He says, if you got Cash App, you can get in the stock market. It is Stash App. I'm gonna put it in there for you. If you have Stash App, you can get into the stock market. If you can use the Cash App application to try to attach your money to a brokerage account. It's just the problem is that um, Cash App is not regulated. Therefore, your money is not protected. It's not guaranteed. If in the event that anybody does something where your money comes up missing, you don't have a customer service center like PayPal to recover your money and return it to you. So it is an unsecured network that allows for you to peer-to-peer transfer money. And technically, laws have been put in place where they're supposed to monitor that and report that as income in 1099 and Schedule Ks to the IRS. But because they have not articulated the best way to monitor that system, they haven't enforced it yet. So I would be careful with Cash App because eventually you're going to have to include that in your tax records. He says, you can buy a house with crypto. Yes, you can. Money is already digital. For the most part, it is. They actually have digitized United States currency because they have crypto, U.S. crypto, like U.S. dollar bill crypto. I don't know what they call it, but it's like, because then they have the rainbow currency. They got a lot of stuff out there. He said, LOL, MTG did an interview with a guy from the old school IRS. It was wild. Oh no, I know you said Cash App. I'm just telling you, Cash App is not stable. You want to use Cash App. Cash App is like 75%. Well, no, it's probably closer to 40 or 50% scammers, and the rest of them are drug dealers. Because a lot of illegal transactions can be done through Cash App because it's unregulated. So, if I wanted to buy um, anything from you that would otherwise have ATF kick my door in and arrest me, and I didn't bring money with me, I could just Cash App you the money because they don't track the money. There are no bank statements. There's no reports. There's no itemizations. So money went from one person to another, and nobody knows why. Right. And then everybody's anonymous because their accounts is based off of an email. It's not based off of a username. It's not based off of any type of identification. So you can make a bootleg email account, and then after you make the bootleg email account, you can double back and get you a Cash App account. And it's basically only really linked to like a phone number. And it doesn't have to be your phone number. It could be a text now phone number. It could be a Google Voice phone number, and then an email. And that's it. And so they don't have a way to track the owner of the account. And then they don't have a way to track the transactions. And because it's unregulated, it's a scenario where money gets moved from one place to another and nobody knows why. So one, your money's not protected, but two, I mean, it's easier to commit crime that way, money laundering and stuff, because nobody is paying attention to where the money goes and where the money's coming from. He has been making money with stocks on Cash App. Cash App offer statements at taxes. Well, okay, Stash App, STASH, is a brokerage account platform. Cash App actually is a digital fintech bank account scenario that allows you to hold and transfer money from one place to another, and it can be linked to a brokerage account. And it's supposed to have uh, bank statements and tax returns. It does have the capabilities for you to acquire a history of your information if you request it. But under the normal circumstances, they're not emailing you or text messaging you bank statements every month. You have to literally put an effort to reach out to somebody on an app somewhere and get them to send you the last 20 or 30 transactions that you have. You don't have a 1-800 number that monitors your balances and stuff, online banking or anything like that. It's just, I sent money to 504 zip code yesterday. That's it. That's all that's there. Um, how are y'all doing? Special shout out to Brooklyn. Good to see you. Okay, well, you may have established your Cash App account in a more legitimate fashion where you can get your statements. But when I was using the app, all that information wasn't there. It is a very unsecured system. I don't recommend it to an honest investor. I don't recommend it to an honest business owner. I would recommend, if you're not going to use Venmo or Zelle or Stripe, that you use PayPal, because it is a more secured network. There's a customer service situation that protects you from fraud, and they're more capable of tracking your stuff. You get more detailed invoices. You get the ability to do your 1099s and everything like that with the statements that you get from those more structuralized and secure networks. So, I mean, if you have found a way to get statements, then by all means, but at the same time, I'm going to tell you, it is not, it's an unsecured situation where it is less tracked and less monitored than the average fintech. And as a result, the government doesn't regulate it, and the platform doesn't regulate it to a magnitude where you can utilize it for organized crime, which is why you're able to make the claim that 75% of users are scammers, because most of the stuff off of there is not legit. You can't really trace it to a legitimate source. So you can't really file your taxes with what's going on Cash App. You're supposed to be able to. The equipment should be there, but okay. Well, I would have to do more research to verify that, because I don't have any information about Stash App doing anything positive. I know Stash, Stash, Stash app is for low income investors. I don't know anything about Cash, Cash app doing anything positive with investing. How you doing, Casper? Uh, Doing all right. So back to us talking about Luxembourg. We were talking about traveling from France to Luxembourg. When we're in Luxembourg, transportation is free in Luxembourg. But if we were coming from France, we have to travel from France to Luxembourg first. And if we were to try to get a monthly pass, excuse me, uh, or like an abondment, the train from Thonneville to Luxembourg City is going to be a fast one. It's only like 25 or 30-minute travel, but the cost for a monthly cross-border pass is going to be around 80 euros from France to Luxembourg. Though this can vary from person to person, while a single ticket might be like 5 or 10 euros, the pass is going to be the only logical choice for daily commuting, because if you pay per use, it's going to eventually exceed the monthly pass if you're doing daily usage. So uh, even if you have somebody that you know that's living in Luxembourg enjoying that free $0 commute, if you factor in the 80 euro a month transfer from France to Luxembourg so that you don't have to pay the standard of living in Luxembourg, is going to be a perfect example of one of those things that we call the hidden cost of the cheaper cross border solution. So you would have a fortune saved on rent, but you'd give a lot of it back in the commuting costs and the time to get back and forth from the place that you wanted to be in to the place that you can afford to be in. So to be clear, the 80 euros a month for unlimited travel on your main commute route is still incredibly cheap by European standards. a lot similar commutes in London or Paris could easily cost 3 or 4 times more than that. So even with this cost, it's still going to feel like a bargain. And once your train crosses the border, this is going to be where you're in the free transportation zone. So it's the only area of the budget where Luxembourg feels like it was actively trying to help you save some money if you can only partially accept the gift um, based on your commuting and the efforts that you're trying to go into. Everything is not cheap. And the one positive question you've asked all day, Luxembourg is not cheap by far. The only thing that was cheap with Luxembourg was the free transportation, the free public transportation. Everything is extremely expensive in Luxembourg. What we've been talking about for the first hour and a half before we had that side tangent from Lucas the Poser interfering with the podcast with negative comments was that you would have to live nearby Luxembourg to be able to afford to live there on a $3,000 a month budget. And that would require you to commute to Luxembourg, where the standard of living in France would be far cheaper than the standard of living in Luxembourg. But Luxembourg holds the position of having free transportation in Luxembourg. So if you spend the $80 commute from France to Luxembourg, once you get to Luxembourg, you can ride around for free. But you would have to eat and everything like that in France, live in France, commute to Luxembourg. So you're like packing a lunch and taking it with you because if you go eat in Luxembourg, you're spending way too much money to eat in Luxembourg. Because my family's from Luxembourg. It's a beautiful the food is amazing and it is a cheap cost of living, at least what I remember. Oh yeah, well that depends on what you consider cheap because like we were discussing, the rent there is almost 2,200 euros a month, which is technically cheap in comparison to like American standards with $5,500 a month in New York. So technically it can be considered a cheaper cost if you're comparing Luxembourg to California or something like that, Brooklyn, something like that. One of the most expensive. If we compare Luxembourg to the top five most expensive countries in America, it's probably cheaper. But the discussion that we're having today, because the average American makes less than 70,000 a year, 36,000 a year is a $3,000 a month income. When you start talking about $4,000 a year, $1,000 a month, we start getting closer to $48,000 a year, which is not $75,000 a year. And we're trying to figure out how we could potentially go to other countries and live on an average standard of living because when you think about minimum wage being standardly used at $15 an hour, even though a lot of states have it listed on paper as like $7 to $10 an hour. A lot of companies that are offering competitive minimum wage is offering like $15 a month, or not a month, but $15 an hour for wage. And when you're looking at like that's um like $600, I think, a week before taxes for a 40-hour week work week at $15 an hour, which would over the course of 4 weeks put you at somewhere close to $2,400 a month. So a $3,000 a month income would either be like overtime hours on your job or perceivably like an 18 or $20 an hour salary after taxes. So if you're making 18 or 8, yeah, 20, $25 an hour after taxes, um, to go live in Luxembourg, you're living a semi poverty level income in a very beautiful, very lavish country on the other side of the world. So it is possible to live in Luxembourg. I'm not saying that it's not possible to live in Luxembourg. I'm just saying that you probably would have a harder time living directly in Luxembourg with the base level $3,000 a month income, but you would actually be able to go to Luxembourg if you brought extra money to cover the startup to get in there. You would be able to live in Luxembourg with maybe a 50 or $75,000 a year income. So, if you had a Florida income, like 22, $23 an hour, working at a Waffle House overnight shift supervisor kind of thing, and you wanted to go to Luxembourg with that kind of income, you could probably do that. You know, I think that would make more sense. But yes, the country is very beautiful, and that's one of the reasons why we cover different countries around the world because we know that the countries are very beautiful. There a lot of hospitality. The people are um, very, courteous to foreigners and expats. So if you're coming here on a tourist visa, you would likely have a better socialization experience than what you would have as a native in America. So, which is, I think when Trader was saying, yeah, it's not that bad in comparison to America. Like shit, you can't find a place that's horrible when you're going there as a guest because they don't take you to the places that's shitty. But when you're a native to the land, you typically experience the shitty. You said no, I didn't talk about taxes yet. I talked about Luxembourg's cost of living, and then I talked about France being cheaper than Luxembourg, and then we talked about the income that you would need and the difference between before tax income and after tax income that you would need that would not be sustainable in America, but be more sustainable in Luxembourg, depending on where you go, or France next to Luxembourg, depending on where you go. So understanding this is going to be where the numbers get really, really tight. So after you cover the roof over your head in another country, because you're not going to be doing it in Luxembourg on $3,000, most of the food is going to be coming from Liddell, utilities, and your commute. After all of that, what's left for that famous quality of life? What's left for socializing, hobbies, and fun? If we recap the math, out of the 2,750 monthly euros that we're supposed to have, the rent would probably be 850 euros, groceries 350 euros, utility 225 euros, transportation 80 euros, which is going to be a subtotal of 1,505 euros if you're living in France right next to Luxembourg, leaving you with about, 1,245 euros. So first glance, that's going to look like a lot of disposable income. But this has to cover everything else. First, healthcare, health insurance is compulsory and usually deducted from your salary, which we've assumed is the case for this 2,750 net figure. But you might see a copay, and it's wise to budget at least 50 euros a month for incidental health costs. Um, okay. Brooklyn says, I've only been to Luxembourg 4 years ago in Europe tour, but from what I saw, it was beautiful. It was beautiful indeed. Now, I've been looking into moving to Europe, not sure where yet, but that's where I want to be. Um, our memory can play tricks on us. A lot of things in life can be fucking fantastic because we didn't have any responsibilities while we were out there. So one of the things that we talk about, like what we're talking about right now, is the hidden cost of making that type of decision. While I don't discourage you to do it. I think that if you want to go back to Luxembourg, you should. But just like we covered 2 hours ago, if you were trying to rent an apartment in Luxembourg, you might need $8,000 down before you start paying for your monthly usage. And when you start talking about the entry cost to get there, if you went for whatever reason where you were living with family and friends, you didn't have to pay that entry cost. If you weren't required to work there because you were coming there as a visitor and some of the people covered some of the essentials that you needed, you didn't have that scrounging requirement in order to make ends meet, in order to cover the things that you needed. Once you start calculating the requirement for the cost of living, because what I just did was calculate uh, um, approximately $1,500 of money, 1,500 euros of money on a 850 euro rent scenario. If you had a 2,200 euro rent scenario, you would likely be over like 2,700 or $3,200 a month expense, which in United States dollars would probably be closer to like $4,250 a month to live in Luxembourg comfortably, right? Even with the free commute. And that's not including the observation that you would still have to bring an extra $8,000 down because you need your first month, last month, and processing fee with the real estate agent in order to get started. So if you wanted to move to Luxembourg permanently, you would likely need like a average $4,000 or $4,500 a month income, maybe $5,000 a month income on a regular basis, which pretty much puts you at a $60,000 a month salary plus an extra $8,000 for the entry. So take that into consideration when you decide to go back to Luxembourg, if you're going to be making that a permanent move. But if you're not going to Luxembourg, or if you think that Luxembourg might be just a little bit outside of your expected budget level, I just covered the fact that France, right next door, will give you the ability to commute back and forth to Luxembourg to get that Luxembourg experience at a fraction of the price. So if you're willing to live next to Luxembourg and then put the effort into commuting to Luxembourg, then you can accomplish uh $3,500 a month income next door to Luxembourg and still be in Luxembourg experiencing the lifestyle of Luxembourg when you're not living in Luxembourg. And that's one of the ways that we give you guys information on how to improvise on a budget and still try to get what you want without paying the exuberant prices of the demand of what you're expecting. Well, any country that you would decide to invest in real estate in is going to be a good country to invest in. You have to look at the local laws and determine if you're going to a country that allows for foreign investments to buy land outright for the individuals. But I would recommend that if you go to any country around the world, that you establish a foreign domestic LLC or C corporation that buys real estate so that it's not being picked up by the individual, it's being picked up by the entity that the individual represents. You can always do a foreign domestic establishment where that particular branch of your company might be 60% owned by a local native that you have trust and confidence in partnering with, where you be the face of my company and we both get paid kind of situation. And you do a lot of the footwork and they get a lot of the credit for it on paper in their country so that y'all both make money. And that type of partnership would allow for you to do things that you otherwise would not be able to do as an individual. But beyond that, if you're just trying to buy a homestead, certain countries will allow you to buy a homestead where you're going to buy a house, consider that an investment, potentially turn it into a rental property, and then buy you a second house. A lot of countries allow you to buy that cash up front or however investment opportunity and buy that as an individual, not as a business. Like Japan, you don't need anything to go over there and buy. You don't even need citizenship to go buy houses over there in Japan and in China and stuff like that. But places like the Philippines, you can't buy their land. India, you can't buy their land. You can lease it for 100 years, but you can't buy their land. All right. So it really depends on where you're trying to go. Now, as far as an investment opportunity, you don't have to buy shit for an investment opportunity. You can have somebody's already developed property. You can put a little bit of money into renovating the property and then have them pay you a percentage of their profits for improving the quality of their product so that they can charge more money for the quality of their product. And then you get the difference, right? You don't have to really buy anything. You just have to invest in the already set up establishment and expand or improve or renovate the process that they have. And as a silent partner, you're just going to get a cut because you put some money down to make the other person successful. So with that dynamic, yes, you can invest in real estate in any country around the world and turn over a profit. You have to look at the opportunity cost though, because some countries are cheaper than other countries, and the money that you put up is not going to go as far in countries that have a lower GDP. They have a lower cost of if the salary of an employee in certain countries is like a few $100s for the month, like two, three, $400 for the month. You're not getting back the same type of profit that you would if the like Luxembourg, France, Denmark, Switzerland, Netherlands, Greenland, some of the countries that we covered where $3,000, $5,000, $7,000 a month is what you needed to survive there, right? She said, "Well, I'm going to look into that. I'm open to anything, really, while I'm still young." Most women are, Brooklyn. But thank you for your advice so much. You're so smart and sweet. I really appreciate it. Love the show. But today was one of those days that we were talking about just places to go. But yesterday we was talking about investment opportunities, and Monday we was talking about politics and how it negatively impacts your investment opportunities. So we got a lot of money making topics that we talk about every Tuesday, and then we have a lot of changes that's happening in our economy that we talk about on Mondays that will impact your ability to be as successful as you thought you was, where like roadblocks are being created and we don't even pay attention to them. And when they start going into full effect, that's when we hit that wall and oh, the man's keeping us down. No, they told you that they were building a detour and you just didn't pay attention to the signs. So, we talk about these things throughout the week. And then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, we tell you guys how to make different decisions in your personal life so that you guys can find yourself in a better situation where your personal decision making skills do not negatively impact all the effort you put into all the money that you made. Because that's another thing that we do. We're live 7 nights a week. We don't take I don't take days off for holidays, weekends, nothing like that. We do not let the sun rise without going live. We're live 7 nights a week. And then we put follow-up information into the membership so that people who want to do in-depth deep dives of whatever topic we're talking about dive into the membership and get all the extra information out of the membership. Just also, do you have an Instagram or TikTok uh, that I can add you on? Would love to talk and learn more. We do have a TikTok channel that I don't put a lot of effort into because this is taking a lot of my time with dumping all of the detailed information into the membership. But I do, whenever I do have extra time, upload more short videos onto TikTok. The TikTok platform is the exact same name, this and that, and you'll see the exact same logo on there when you find us on TikTok. I do believe it is this underscore that or this underscore and dash that, something to that effect. But you'll see us if you were to Google the show name, you'll find us in there. Uh, uh, and you'll see me because I cover a lot of videos on there. We've been trying to do the dual presentation where we're streaming on TikTok live as well. But like I told you guys before, I had to get me a bigger computer because trying to stream on two different platforms at the same time overworks this processor. And this little bitty ass Lenovo is not going to be able to handle that. So we're still working on going live on TikTok while we're going live on YouTube and Twitch. Special shout out to those that are still watching us from Twitch so that we can try to be a multi-platform podcast. But if you want to provide any more information or get more details from me outside of the live show, you can always message me in the chat in the comment section or in the membership because Stephen and Unc and Dylan all and Michael from time to time all communicate with me through the comment section and the membership to get detailed in-depth information from me because I put a lot of links and a lot of detailed information into the membership to help you guys and archive it so that it's always there and always accessible and those links are always live so that if you want to go back 2 years ago and see what I wrote, you guys can reinforce that information. It's evergreen information that will help you guys be more and more successful. And then it's compounding information. So, 13 different shows can come together and give you a real life plan that you never thought possible. Right. Now, the next we got the social life. We're like 2/3 of the way there. We're almost there. We got like 20 pages of information left. We've established the restaurants and eating out. So, what does socializing look like in Luxembourg? I'm gonna tell you, it's gonna be going for drinks in regular bar like Luxembourg. Not ideal. Beer is 5 or 6 euros. Glass of wine is 7 euros. So if you go out twice a week to drink each time, you're looking at nearly 100 euros a month to get drunk. And if you had a budget of like 50 euros for going out, which usually means like one outing a week with two drink max, or just having a drink at a friend's place, you're probably not doing that much. He says, I have a screenshot for you. Where should I send it? Into the membership. uh, because we're not, StreamYard doesn't have the ability for you to like just stick stuff up there. And then we also have a lot of people that kind of troll the podcast from time to time inappropriately, and then they try to put inappropriate content up onto the screen. Some people try to put inappropriate content on the screen so that they can use that inappropriate content to try to get a good podcast demonetized and banned, and that's just negative stuff. So the way it works is that in the membership you have the ability to upload imagery, and then I can evaluate it. Or if you go to the membership, not the membership, you go to the main channel. There's an email for the show, in the main channel, and you can send me the screenshot in that channel, in the channel's email. And when I go and check the emails after the show, then I can go and look at that screenshot. Um, she old enough to be your mama, Max. You need to go sit down somewhere. And say, "Is that your profile photo?" You're not picking up chicks on my platform, Max. Now, let's talk about other fun. Movie tickets are around $12 to $15 in euros. Gym memberships average around 50 to 70 euros. So you can't just justify it just by saying, "Well, I'm going to get a gym membership for a gym membership." Instead, you might decide to start running because that's free. Parks and forests around Luxembourg are incredible for hiking and running, and that's going to become a hobby for you because that's free, right? You have to spend a lot of money on doing stuff like that. Oh, you said it's income from Cash App trading. Oh yeah, well you could send that to the email. We have a this that and everything in between at gmail.com. You can send that to the email, and then I'll take a look at it because like I said, I have not seen when I was looking at Stash App, I didn't see anything other than the balance and the ability to send and receive money, upload and deposit money. And that's all the information that I used to see on Cash App when I was using it. But it probably has come a long way since I was using it because it was a few years ago. Um, but I'll double check, like I said, um, do some research and see how advanced Cash App has become because they did pass a law a couple years ago that made it a requirement for fintech apps like Cash App to report to the IRS and then like be able to document income streams from the individual users. And they were supposed to develop the technology to be able to track the money for the individual users so that they can report it. So if they got that under control, then you're getting paperwork from them, right? And that's really what that's about. I just tell you guys that you got to be careful. Detail your invoices, what you're getting money for. If you're logging every time you send money to somebody, um, uh, reimbursement for whatever. If it's a reimbursement, it's not a paycheck. They're giving you money back. If you just send it with no memo, then it could be misrepresented as income. And if it's misrepresented as income, you're passing money back and forth between your friends, trying to make ends meet. And you're actually just passing the same money back and forth, not actually turning a profit. And that could throw off your 1099, which could throw off the income that people are reporting under your name, which could throw off your tax requirement. And then when you file taxes and what you claim that you made over the year versus what people reported that you make over the year don't match up, that could lead you to get audited. Is Apple Pay unregulated? No, Apple Pay is regulated through Apple. When the government changed the rules on trading, it changed trading on all platforms. Well, it wasn't about trading. It was about fintech reporting financial income. That's what the government changed the rules on. And when they changed the rules, but they haven't really enforced the rules, um, that's going to be what we have to pay attention to because we're gonna experience different taxation when they report the income that we have on them. You gonna make me put you in timeout again? No, you're not gonna do what you gotta do on my platform. This isn't a dating platform, Max. It's past your bedtime. You're not even old enough to have a job. You were supposed to be in bed asleep when Adult Swim came on at 10 o'clock. They changed the day trading rules. I remember that because the I have not even covered the changing of the day trading rules, and I'm gonna have to probably throw that into one of my upcoming Tuesday shows and really discuss what happened with the day trading rules. But I haven't covered the day trading rules. But I know that like we used to have the stock market teeing off at first thing in the morning, and now it's starting at 9:30 and all this other stuff. There's a lot of stuff that's changed. I just navigated around it. I haven't had enough time to cover it with all the other changes that we were going through. But I do believe that since you mentioned it, that it is an important topic for us to discuss. But when I talk to everybody about the investments and brokerage accounts, I don't really talk to them about day trading itself. because the average amateur investor, the average beginner investor is not going to have the skill set to day trade. Um, and it's not something that I can truly teach to you um, um, in a live podcast. Yes, Brooklyn, Max the poser, the number one poser, is about 15, 16 years old. So his dad allows him to come to this podcast so that he can learn how to invest, make, save, and invest money and be responsible. Because Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, I teach men how to be responsible and make better decisions. And Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, I teach young men how to invest, save, and change the way they make decisions. While Max is hard headed, Joe, his father, knows what goes on his podcast, and that's why he is here. Yes, I know number one poser. Yes, that's why I keep calling number one poser Max, because that's his name. His name is Max, and his dad's name is Joe. And I met and I had his dad on his podcast, live podcast, and we had a whole conversation live on a podcast. And I made a short about that conversation. So yes, I know him heavily. That's the reason why he hasn't gotten blocked with his inappropriate behavior. But he's about 15, 16 years old, so he shouldn't be trying to pick up chicks on my podcast. So I'm asking him to behave before I have to reach out to his father. uh, so no, you cannot communicate and articulate with the minors on my channel. So if you and him want to have a conversation, y'all are gonna have to go to a different channel and have that conversation. He says, I don't have to wait for a bell to ring on my Snapchat. Tell me about it, bro. I'm in the middle of the night, roll out of bed, and I just start making transactions and be like, boom, let that trade whenever trade. Because Stash App trades 4 times a day. It's not going to trade the moment that you say trade. There's 4 set times out of the day that it's going to trade. And if you put your bid up before that trade time, it trades. Then when you wake up, the transaction is done, and you're good to go. If you do something midday, sometimes towards the middle of the day, it's done. If you do something towards the afternoon, sometimes before the end of business day is done. You do something shortly after. If you put up a bid after 4 o'clock, before 7 o'clock, you'll still see your shit transfer that same day. So um, it's just saying there's access. Yeah, there's going to be access in a lot of places. I just got to look into it, man. I just got to look into it. You brought up some good information, so I'm gonna talk about some of the day trading rules. I'm gonna figure out which Tuesday I'm gonna talk about that on, but I'm gonna put that in our upcoming, because we do need to know about those things. Uh, okay, that's a decent question. Even though we're supposed to be talking about Luxembourg, now you're talking about investing. That's a Tuesday night show. But uh, side topic, yeah, Stash App is one of the better ones because it has no um transaction fees. It has a monthly service fee, unlimited trading. It's easy to get in. It's as little as $3 a month. If you get the yearly membership, it's $32 a year. If you get the links from the membership, you can get a $30 enrollment fee that they send to you for signing up through a referral, which gives you $30 to start with. So if you add $5 to the membership, and they give you the $30, you can effectively pay the $32 membership fee for the first year for basically $2 for the first year, which gives you the ability to make more money off of the platform than they bill you every year. But they give you free stock party where they give you free stocks every few weeks, well, every few days, every couple of weeks, where you ultimately out of the year get more than $32 worth. I think anywhere between $32 and $55 worth of stocks that they give you throughout the year for free. Um, so you're getting back more than what you pay into the platform, and then you're turning profits off of the stocks that you select, especially if you grab the stocks that I tell you guys about on a week to week basis. Um, then we if you were to go and do the 401k or the Roth IRA, they have a Roth IRA that is um like I think $129 for the year, but they give you $255 because they match your $7,500 at 3%. So yeah, it is one of the better stocks because you spend less to get more. But technically, when you think about paying a fee, a monthly membership fee or annual membership fee for Stash App versus using Charles Schwab, Charles Schwab is cheaper, but Charles Schwab's makes it mandatory that you buy the whole share of the stock. instead of a fraction of the stock. And Stash App is fractional ETF trading, so you can put up $1 towards a $300 stock as opposed to having to have the whole $300 to buy the stock. So yeah, I'm gonna say that. He says, at least the kids have a good influence like you on a day to day. I agree, and that's the reason why he's still here. Those kids will someday be grateful for having your influence, even if they don't take it seriously now. I agree, and that's why we're here. Stop lying to her, Max. No, you ain't nowhere near 18. You won't see 18 for a couple years. If you're not doing your freshman year of high school in August, you are not nowhere near 18. You ain't old enough to have a learner's permit right now. Stop lying to this woman. This is a grown behind woman. You know that she would be your babysitter. Stop playing. It's not okay. That's what I'm trying to tell him. It's not okay. It's not okay. This is about improving your life. This isn't about trying to and you're probably the first chick to come up onto the show with a profile photo in a while because we had Cardinal Rules, we had Nicole from Detroit, Michigan. We had a few ladies that used to come onto the show. They haven't been coming on for a few weeks now. And Max just started coming in because he's on summer break, so he missed when the other women were coming onto the show. But you're the first woman to come on for the summer, and nose wide open. You can tell he ain't a grown ass man because all the grown men has said hello and stopped talking to you. The child is like, "What you doing on Saturday?" Like, it. We as men we can show desperation really quick. When women can tell desperation. Here we go. Now we got to start talking about back to Luxembourg when we start talking about personal care, taking care of yourself. Like um, men's haircuts, $25 to $35. I know that y'all get fades and everything like that here in America around anywhere between $40 to $60 with your barber, unless you get like shape ups and all this other stuff, facial hair trims and everything like that. Now you might be paying $80 to $100 for a haircut. But over there in Luxembourg, you're looking at $25 to $30. Toiletries and cleaning supplies can easily add up to another $50, 50 euros a month. So you're also going to need to set aside money for clothes because I mean, you can go there with uh the clothes that you bring, but most people like to buy stuff while they're out there and then kind of live like the locals do. Uh, well, the men in here got bad taste. I don't think the men have bad taste because the men. So here's the thing: most of the men that are on this show, besides the minor that's trying to get your phone number, most of the men that's on the show is over the age of 30, and they are all trying to improve themselves financially and make better decisions with their lives. I'm encouraging everybody on the show to build a 20 or 30-year plan for their retirement so that even if you're 25, 30, 40 years old right now and you're working on a job every day and you're able to make that money, you're not going to be physically capable to do it in 30 years. So you need to start trying to figure out how you're going to quit your job and have a stable income when you stop working completely. So the men come here. It's not that they may not be interested in you because maybe if they saw you in person, they might want to talk to you, take you out to dinner, stuff to that effect. But we've actually talked about how that's fiscally irresponsible too, especially if the woman is not committed to the man on the first date. Why is he spending all this money to impress her instead of her actually showing him her value when she walks up? Because the benefit of the woman dating the man, which that's going to be another show we're going to be talking about, is his entire estate that he takes three-quarters of his life to build. She doesn't have an estate to contribute to the man's life. She brings herself. Not saying that women aren't successful. It is the fact that average relationship doesn't benefit from whatever the woman's got. Her stuff is her stuff, and his stuff is her stuff. And because that is the social norms in Western culture, at the end of the day, whatever she's got doesn't matter. What he's got is what defines him as a man. How she behaves and her virtue is what defines her as a woman. So when the men are here on the podcast, like, well, while she might be cute, I can't afford that right now because I'm trying to make some changes. I'm trying to restructuralize. I'm trying to organize. I'm trying to boost myself up financially. I'm not interested in picking up chicks on social media right now. I'm trying to get my money right so that when I do start talking to chicks, I'm financially responsible. I'm financially stable. I can afford the demands of the woman that's looking for the man that wants $100,000 a year man. I can be that criteria because what men do from birth until they die is to meet the common expectations of women. What women do is make demands. They don't want to meet the common expectations of men because women will decide, I don't need a man before they decide to respect the man the way the man respects the woman. They will prefer that I don't need to meet the expectations of the dude because I am the prize when the woman doesn't bring anything to the relationship. And since the women are not invested into the relationship, they show up, they look attractive, they might give sex, and that's all they provide in the beginning. And they believe that that's enough. And because they don't have any skin in the game, the woman is the first person to walk out of the relationship because they don't have anything invested in the relationship. Men don't walk out of the relationship. 80% of women leave and 80% of men stay and try to work it out because the man is financially invested. He invests his time, he invests his resources. The women invest their time, yeah, but they don't invest their resources. They're just there. Yeah, yeah, go half on rent because you stay there too. But he's going to put you through college. He's going to buy you a car. He's going to pay for your cell phone bill. He's going to do all this stuff that she's not going to do. And then he's going to put his life on the line, put his freedom on the line to protect you from society. So the dynamic change between men and women is not the same. And since it's not the same, the men on this podcast are focusing on getting themselves in a position of stability before they position themselves in front of a woman as a potential suitor. So it's not that they have bad taste. It's they have better logic that if they're not prepared to meet whatever your expectations are before you put your expectations on the table, then at the end of the day, it's inappropriate for them to reach out to you and say, hey, I think that you look cute. Because truth to be told, women are complimented so much in their life from childhood until adulthood that the compliments are meaningless to the women. And a lot of the times it creeps them out. There's only so many ways that you can be told that you're attractive before it starts becoming dirty. And at the end of the day, men are unnecessarily complimenting women simply because they exist, not because they did anything meaningful. But the average woman still claims that they want to be valued for their mind. They want to be valued for their capabilities and their skill set. They don't do anything to get valued that way, but they expect to be valued that way. And it's a contradiction. So in this particular conversation, you came in and you contributed your experience to Luxembourg. And while that was highly valuable, you contributed your dream to go back to Luxembourg. While that was also highly valuable, this conversation has been about investing, moving, decision making, planning, and outside of Max trying to holler at you, like your presence in the channel is a learning position, not an educational position where you're aiding and teaching everybody anything. So the guys aren't talking to you because they're not. It's not that they're not interested. It's that they're interested in learning something here, not picking up chicks. So that they don't have bad taste because they said hello to you when you came in a podcast and didn't say anything else to you. It's that they have respect for you as an adult, that you stayed to learn on a podcast where we're not insulting anybody, shaming anybody, or disgracing ourselves or anybody else. Right? That's what it is. They had enough respect for you to say, well, we're not going to make her feel uncomfortable. We're just going to sit quiet and we're going to learn stuff because she came to learn stuff. We want more women on the show. We like a woman's perspective. But I mean, we're not going to turn this into like a red pill, blue pill, black pill podcast where men are going to make women feel like shit when they come here, because we already know that the valuable woman is going to be the one that's going to linger here in silence, learn shit, positively contribute to the conversation, or say nothing. And when they disagree with what's going on, they're either going to articulate it respectfully or they're going to walk away from the channel. So the guys here aren't going to be the guys that's going to make you feel uncomfortable about being here the way Max did. Okay, interesting topic. You said, what made me want to talk about Luxembourg? I threw a dart on the map and I was like, boom, that's a country I haven't talked about yet. My goal has been since about 6 months before Donald Trump got into office, somebody threw up the ridiculous comment in my podcast that said, oh, if Trump gets elected, I'm going to leave the country. And I said, well, I will tell you once a week, every other country you can get the fuck on to if you don't want to be an American simply because you elected the president that you didn't like. So since that conversation happened, I have decided to strategically design each and every country that I select to give you a positive insight on every other country around the world, if there is a positive insight to provide, to show you that not only are there other options for you to live in, there's other options for you to invest in. And it's not because we don't like Donald Trump. It's because there are other ways for you to live a better life. there's a thing called geo arbitrage where you live in a cheaper country making American dollars, where you have a lower standard of living, that you don't have as many bills on, that you can utilize the extra money to invest in expediting your growth in your retirement fund. And geo arbitrage is only possible if you know which countries you can live in. That's 30% of the cost of America while still making American money. If you're making $250,000 a year from California, but you're living in the Philippines, Vietnam, Asia, of any area like Indonesia, Seoul or something like that, South Korea, some Taipei, you know, Kazakhstan, Belarus, Bangladesh. Special shout out to Bangladesh. Half of the people that watch the show is from Bangladesh, and Bangladesh is like 90% small business owners, women running the country and then going home and taking care of their men. That's the kind of stuff that you don't see in Western culture. And you can go and live in Bangladesh with $250,000 and be a multimillionaire. There's different countries around the world, Kazakhstan, where you can go and nobody would have known about that. So when I started doing this as well, you can go if you don't want to be an American. But then I decided, you know what? Let's make this educational. I'm going to show you how you can improve your life by going to another country and then coming back. I'm showing you, I've capitalized in 2026. Like, hey, you can set it up where you pay for your house in America, go stay somewhere else for 2 years, come back to America, and you learn something new in another culture. You've experienced a different lifestyle. You're making money internationally, and then you come back to America and you can live that life and have that memory that says, well, I was in such and such place, just like what Brooklyn did. I was in Luxembourg. It was awesome there because she was literally in Luxembourg, and it was awesome there. Steven says, well, I still compliment if unseen something I like. Um, only in person though. Yeah, see, that's another thing. Yeah, okay, I have had women pass by me and they'll tell me that my dogs look cute, and I'll look at her like you cute too. You know, I've done that from time to time, but I have delayed my ability to compliment women until they have deserved it. And the reason why I say that is because if it's like telling everybody that you pass, I love you. It loses its meaning. If I think that you are appropriately dressed, you're carrying yourself well, you're modestly dressed, and I think that you look attractive, adorable, whatever, I should be able to give you that compliment in a genuine sense, not a dirty old man perspective where you look like an OnlyFans girl and I'm just telling you that you're attractive because I'm thinking about trying to sleep with you. I shouldn't have to filter my train of thought to compliment you in a way where my dirty thoughts are perceived in an appropriate light. And in that dynamic, you're not earning my mutual respect. You have appeased to my desire, and I'm only mentioning because of the desire. That I'm not going to compliment that. That's inappropriate for me to do as a man. I would not want my daughter to carry herself that way. So I'm not going to allow myself to encourage women to carry themselves that way because a lot of women will seek negative attention before they can get positive attention, and they would degrade and devalue themselves either on purpose or accidentally just to get that attention. And I'm not going to feed into that. If you're not coming in a positive light, I'm not going to address you. So I encourage men to say, hey, if we want to change the dynamic where we can find wives out of our culture, we have to discourage the negative behavior of women by not complimenting inappropriate attire, not complimenting inappropriate behavior, not complimenting the sassiness that they give. Because if we want a woman that's going to cooperate with us, we don't want a woman that's going to talk back to us. So we just have to change the way we behave, because if we support negative behavior, we're always going to have a dating pool of negative behavior. We're going to be dissatisfied with the dating pool that we have, but we as men are cultivating the dating pool that we have. The same way women are cultivating the dating pool that they have. It says, I would never want to meet a woman online. That's weird to me. That's actually becoming a common norm, though. Actually, right now, if, for example, if you wanted to find a wife in the Philippines, but you didn't want to exhaust your travel time looking for her, you would likely find her on Christian Filipino because they actually have a travel agent that hooks you up with the passport information to travel your girlfriend back to America. So they'll call you and talk to you. So for the sake of, if you wanted to have like regular conversation with a specific individual, you would likely $250 for 1 month of service, 30 days before you're flying out. change your profile to say I'm going to such and such. Like if you're going to Cebu or Malena or something like that, and you're like, oh, I'm going to Cebu, I'm going to be there on such and such date to such and such date, and you put that in the headline bio of your thing, and you're like, oh, marriage-driven relationships only, only serious people inquire. Like you could be very like just simplistic about it, right? Blown up. Everybody's trying to talk to you, right? Now, travel agent's going to call you because you put up the $250. People going to call you to vote who you want to talk to. They're going to connect you directly to a real person. Now, doesn't guarantee that the person is not going to be trying to trap you and get a bunch of cash out. But it does guarantee that you're going to connect to a real person before you touch down in the country. So if you're there for 90 days, that 90 days you're actually spending with the handful of people that you've made connections to that you're guaranteed to meet up with, and they're going to potentially they're going to show you their value, which is what American women don't do. So that if you decide that I'm going to turn this one into a wife, if you're going to go from a 90-day visa to a digital nomad visa, or you're going to go from a 90-day visa to an extended 90-day visa, or whatever the case may be, where you end up going from hanging out there for a few months to hanging out there for a half year or hanging out there for a whole year so that you can get enough time to know this girl where you can decide I'm going to marry this girl and bring her back to my country. That's the way to do it, where $250 and you got first contact connection before you meet her. You get off the plane, she's driving you back to her place, which is cheaper than getting a hotel. So wow, that's when we were kids, Steven, no, we would have never done that. But modern times right now, like that's the thing. Like that's kind of the thing. I know it's weird, but it's a fast track way to turn global interaction into direct in-person interaction. But I would only do it if it's going to be guaranteed direct interaction. I don't believe that it would be a good idea to say, oh yeah, I'm gonna spend 250 $300 a month to talk to this girl online. No, fuck that shit. If I can't put you in a suitcase and fly you back to America, fuck, I'm not even gonna try. She said, well, I would like to ask you, what is the best way to compliment a man in the house, serve him and become a team where we both improve each other and our lives. I don't want bags or vacations, just a stable family. Okay, so for this particular type of question, you have to recognize that not a lot of women are going to like this response. What men need is a helper, because if you pick a man with good decision making skills, he's going to have a plan that includes the things that you need and some of the things that you want. And if he has to sacrifice some of the things that he needs or some of the things that he wants to make sure that you get everything that you need within his capabilities and some of the things that you want within capabilities, he's going to put you before himself. Now, because of that dynamic, as a good girlfriend and as a good wife, one of the first things you need to do is find out where your man is falling short for himself. One of the first places that men fall short is they don't feed themselves so that they make sure that their wife eats. They don't take care of themselves personally, so they're not doing their laundry on a regular basis because they're out there grinding. They come back, they fall asleep, they get up, they put the uniform back on, and they don't even have to wash it because it's going to get fucked up again anyway. A man's logic is, if I'm going to use it again, why put forth the effort to try to undo what I just did? Because I'm going to do it again in a couple minutes. So a woman is going to be like, no, I'm going to use it once and I'm going to wash it, right? So to keep the man in a more efficient scenario, you find out where he's falling short. If he's disorganized at the house, you organize it. That means washing dishes, cooking for him, making him a lunch for him to go to work. If he works in a job that doesn't have food, where he can't eat on the job, you make sure that you bring him lunch. If he forgets to bring his lunch to work, you don't have to stalk your husband with a GPS app. You can just go to his job and drop him off lunch so that he can eat on the job without having to waste money eating in the streets. Keeping the house organized with laundry being done, have his bath water run when he comes home so that he could take a bath instead of wearing nasty clothes and having a house spanked up, stuff to that effect. That's the stuff that you do at the house, but it's not just at the house, because you have bills that need to be paid. You have repair people that need to be called. You have packages that need to be shipped. You have cars that need to be fixed. You have doctor's appointments that need to be done. And this is before the kids are put into place. Then you have outside of the house appointments that need to be done. If he has a business, advertisement, marketing, customer service calls that needs to be done. A woman should be a personal assistant to a man. And then instead of arguing with the man, you should be negotiating with the man. You don't have to agree with what he's trying to do, but you should be able to make a backup plan to his plan. If you don't like his plan, we're going to do his plan because he said that that's what he wants to do. But I'm going to come up with a fallback plan in case this plan don't work out, because I don't think this is going to work out. You don't have to tell him you don't trust him. You can show him that you trust him. And then if he fails, you already made the safety net. That's what women are supposed to be doing. And that's not what women do. Women don't want to be told what to do. But truth be told, a woman should be just as obedient to a man as women expect a man to be a servant to the woman. Because if you tell a man to pick up this whatever because it's heavy, he's supposed to stop what he's doing and come and pick it up. Because if he doesn't stop what he's doing and come and pick it up, you're going to feel like he doesn't care about you. But since women never ask a man, what do you want? What do you need? What can I do for you? How can I make your life less stressful? How can I help? Since women don't ask these questions, but these are the exact freaking questions that men ask a woman. What do you like? What do you need? What makes you happy? What can I do to make you smile? What can I do to make you stop crying? Do you want me to go kick that guy's ass? Always inquiring. And even though a man might go through just as many women as women go through men, and at the end of the day, sometimes a lot less than what women go through men, a man will treat each woman as an individual, but women treat men as statistics. So each woman is a new woman with a new owner's manual where I have to learn this woman. So the first 6 months to 2 years, all kinds of questions just to figure out what's going on with her so that I can build a pattern of behavior of meeting her needs. A woman will statistically believe that because I've experienced this with X, Y, and Z number of men, that this is what this man should get. She's making you a sandwich because that's how other men told her to make a sandwich, not because that's how you said make a sandwich. Most men eat it that way. You're going to see this like, damn, she did a good job with the sandwich. Eat the sandwich. But I didn't ask for it like that. You just gave it to me like that. It's different. It's good. I'm going to eat it. I'm not going to complain about it. But I didn't ask for that. Your last boyfriend told you to do it that way, right? Women do not treat men like individuals. Women treat men like statistics. So if you really want to be a good wife to a man, if you really want to be a good girlfriend to a man, learn the man that you have. Try to figure out as a girlfriend what it takes to be a good wife to that man, not what other men would have expected from you. Because those men are in your past. Those are exes. Those aren't your current. That's not your future. So you want to make sure that you're building the kind of life for the person that's going to be the rest of your life, not the rest of your summer, so that y'all are living a conflict free. And it's not going to be 100% conflict free, but you're not going to have unnecessary squabbles. You're not going to have moments where you're ghosting them in person, where you're shutting down emotionally. You're not communicating with him. You're cutting off intimacy, but then you expect him to be a monk and wait for you to decide to show him affection. You're not going to manipulate him by cutting off intimacy until he does what you say. You're going to follow his instructions the way he gives it to you because you expect him, when you say something, he's going to follow your instructions. That's mutual respect. Now, if you do that, you're going to have your good relationship. And with that type of behavior, guess what? Comes the bags and vacations and trips around the world. Because if y'all can work it out where y'all are making money, make money for y'all, he has a better capability of finding ways to bring in extra money to give you extra stuff. The more successful you help your man become, the more money he spends on you. So it benefits you to invest in your man, which is one thing that women don't do. Women want the finished product. Women don't want to build a bear man. I ain't got no time to raise no man. That's what women say. But truth be told, what you're supposed to be doing as a woman is building the man that you want. If you got to invest in him financially, if you got to put in effort to get him where he needs to be, if he's got a shitty job and you want him to have a better job, you look at his skill set and apply for other jobs for him, help him get another job. If he ain't smart enough, put him in college. Make him the man that you want him to be instead of just saying, you better be this in order for you to get with me. If he got potential, motivation, drive, ambition, dedication, admiration, integrity, you want to take that potential and put it to work. Not just sit there and say, oh, I want a G Wagon. Go get me a G Wagon. No. If I could build a G Wagon from scratch, goddamn it, I'm going to build a G Wagon from scratch. And that's how you're supposed to be treating your men. If I want a king, I need to build a king. And that's what men do, which is why men want women with a lower body count. We want a specific type of woman that can be molded into the best wife that we could possibly have. And when we get those women, since they don't ask any questions, we dictate, this is what I need you to do to be the best woman that I need. And that's when women are like, oh, you can't tell me what to do. You're not my daddy. Well, then why are you here? Because if you're not going to contribute in a positive fashion, then you don't need to be here. You're supposed to be part of my peace, not part of my stress. Happy wife, happy life is a wrong mentality. It should be happy husband. If it ain't happy husband, then the wife need to go. A wise man told me one time that if she causes you a headache, you get rid of her. No matter how long you've been with her. Because if she's causing you a headache, she don't love you. Because if she loved you, you wouldn't have a headache. She would make sure you don't have a headache. He says, sounds like a trafficking risk to me. Plus, I would never pay for that. It's not a trafficking risk per se, because if you're letting somebody else do it, you got to worry about that. But if this is the thing, if they're going to connect you to the person, Stephen, and then I'm gonna get to her comment because she had another comment before this one. If you're gonna connect with the person, you're going there, you're gonna meet the person. You decide you're gonna bring this person back to America with you. First of all, if you were going there with the intent to bring this person back, you're going there with enough money with a one-way trip for her to go back to America. So you're bringing extra money for a second ticket. In order for her to fly back to America, there's going to have to be a visa for her. You're going to have to make sure that that visa gets completed before you put her on a plane, right? So you're going to be doing all the work with the embassy. You're going to be putting all this effort in to make sure that she's qualifiable to go back to the American country. And then again, with the United States country, you got to sign this little affidavit that says you're going to spend $20,000 a year on her standard of living if you bring her to America. So you're going to be doing legitimate paperwork before she flies over. And you should have a lot of like marriage information because you're going to be dealing with like ICE, Interpol, all these other people that's going to be nosy about how many times y'all slept together. So this isn't going to be a trafficking situation. This is how society is working right now is that internet is going to give you more access to people that are not inside of your direct line of sight. And then your capability to commute to them or their capability to commute to you will allow for y'all to meet online and then meet in person if you fast track interaction to in-person meeting. Now, if you keep your interactions strictly dating online, that's a waste of money, waste of time. But if you're going to turn within 30 days of me talking to you online, then I'm talking to you in person, and we're going to turn that talking to in person into an attempt to establish a date to marry relationship, then by all means, you can start with it online and then and you could be like, oh, how did you meet your wife? Online. That's going to be the average by 2046. I met my wife online. She said, what other advice would you give? You're very smart and wise. I would like to hear what you have to say. I got a lot of advice while we're still wrapping up the last 20 pages of information about um, Luxembourg, because Thursday, Friday, and Saturday we got relationship topics, socialization, personalization, how to communicate with each other, negotiations, building your brand, and all that other stuff. Today we're talking about specific countries that you could potentially live in. She said, I thought I had a good relationship with him. I was showing lots of care and following his instructions well, but he ended up cheating after 2 years. That made me hesitant about another relationship. That's probably because there was something that you wasn't doing in a relationship that you didn't know that you were supposed to be doing, and he started getting from somewhere outside of a relationship where it wasn't in a relationship. Cheating happens when it doesn't matter who cheats, man or a woman. If what is expected in a relationship isn't there, the partner that cheats typically goes outside of the relationship to go and get it. And it's going to be due to a lack of communication, first and foremost. But ultimately, the person being cheated on um, wasn't aware that there was a problem. And the person doing the cheating didn't articulate the problem. And then the problem was resolved with an affair. I don't condone that type of behavior, but that's kind of how it works. He says, but thanks for the advice. I'm going to ensure I follow his instructions and keep a mutual respect, following, building each other up. I think that if you're still dating a guy that cheated on you after 2 years of dating one another, you don't necessarily have to break up with them, but you really need to find out from your partner what their needs are, what their expectations are, their non-negotiable expectations for behavior. Because if you communicate with your partner and your partner communicates with you in a non-resentment, non-judgmental, non-retaliation fashion, and y'all come clean about the shit that's going on in a relationship that led to the affair in the first place, then you will find that there's a lot of stuff that y'all need to fix. And if y'all are willing to fix it without hating each other in silence, then you can find that you'll be in a situation where you can recover from that affair and not have any problems going forward. Because over the course of a 10 or 20 or 30-year marriage, or 10 years of dating, 15 years of marriage, somebody's going to cheat on somebody, whether it's at the beginning of the relationship or at the end of the relationship. They might cheat in the beginning, not knowing what they have, and then 20 years, 30 years down the line, they regret that cheating, but they're glad that they're still in that relationship. They might be in a relationship for 10, 15 years. The relationship gets stale because you forgot to value each other. You got used to each other, you get content, and then you forget to value each other. And then the novelty of somebody new valuing you is what leads to the affair. Sometimes that happens. When you get used to being around somebody, you stop talking to them a lot of the times. You just pass by each other because I know that you're there and you're good with that. But when you first met, you were in each other's face, like I want you to know that I want you to be here kind of behavior. And that's not what happens after 2 years of being around each other. Like, I'm tired of you being here, like go to work. And that change in attitude is what changes the ability to feel received, acknowledged, and appreciated. And then when you want that acknowledgement, some your coworker, somebody that you talk to online, somebody at your gym, somebody at the yoga studio, the person at Starbucks, you end up whoever you interact with the most is probably going to be the person you end up having an affair with. Typically, what it is. And we have this realization that you can fall in love 150 times in a lifetime. So you can have a girlfriend that you have love for, and then fall in love with somebody else at the same time, and then realize that's a bad decision, and then go back to your girlfriend. It happens, and women do it too. He said, that's a good question. What advice to people who get burned in a relationship? Well, the only advice that you can get, there's two ways that you handle getting burned in a relationship is that you let that relationship go, you recover from that relationship, you improve where you recognize where you failed in that relationship because it takes two people to fuck it up. It's just one person did something that was unreconcilable, but it takes two of you to fuck it up. And you need to figure out where you went wrong in that relationship. And it wasn't just picking that person. And then you fix that before you get into the next relationship so that you're not making the same mistake in a new relationship. You're not bringing the baggage from the last relationship into the new relationship. You're not bringing the lack of trust and the lack of self confidence into the new relationship. That's what you got to do. But if you're gonna stay in that relationship after you got burned, you have to let that shit go. You don't forget it, but you forgive it. You let it go. You detach yourself emotionally from the negative emotions you feel from being burned the first time, and y'all work towards improving it going forward. Um, uh, we're gonna you go take a time out. Again, I done told you before. You gonna go sit in the corner, man. Uh, it says on the topic of Luxembourg, where did you research? I don't understand your question. Um, is there a specific legitimate source that you're looking for when you're asking me where did I research? Are you referring to um, like um, where did specific portions of the country did I research? Like I'm not understanding your point because not only am I going over factual information about Luxembourg, we actually have somebody in the comment section from Luxembourg that's actually verifying the information that I'm providing to you. So like what level and just for the record, TF Fireball is Max Opposer's friend. So y'all are homies right now. Trying your best not to both get blocked off the channel while being irresponsible. So, what do you mean by where do you research? You know, while he gathers his rephrasing, we have to recognize that you're probably going to give yourself about $100 a month discretionary spending fund for provisions, which would include like personal funds like clothes, haircuts, toiletries, and that's going to mean that you're going to be only shopping when there's sales about. You're not going to be buying name brand clothes or getting stuff when it first comes out, kind of situation. So if you added up a budget when we're not talking about the $2,200 a month mortgage, when you're looking at the regular like $850 a month mortgage, you're looking at the remaining essentials being $1,245 because you got that $50 for the hair, $50 for socialization, $100 for clothes and other efficiencies, which is going to leave you with something closer to $1,045 left over. So that's going to be your entire net savings. So you're going to be able to use the remaining information of the remaining capital for like savings, emergencies, travel. When you're dealing with international travel, you're looking for the potential of having to get medevac, replacing broken phones, buying birthday gifts. You're looking at experts say that you should save 15 to 20% of your income no matter where you are in the world. So if you have the ability to put away $400 to $550 a month, whether it's euros or United States dollars, putting away that $500 a month in savings could if you're dealing with one of these budgets in Luxembourg, leave you with close to $500 for just in case money, and that's going to give you um, the life part of your budget, which you could potentially travel on. Um, then if you decide to budget fly, you might spend between 100 and $150 depending on if you do it in advance. And a weekend in another a hostel or something like that might be another $100. So, modest weekend trips in addition to your permanent stay there type of scenario is possible, but it would eat up a huge chunk of whatever the extra funds that you have left. Um, you know, you're asking me how do I research about the economy in Luxembourg? Well, it requires you to, I guess you're waiting on me to tell you that I got on the internet and I did a deep dive search on the countries that I talk about. And I actually spent about 6 to 8 hours of research, if not more, because I actually did the research on this country 2 weeks ago, before I decided to do this country. When I posted it up on the channel, I had already did the research and generated the 55 pages of information that I gave you guys, outside of all the research and information that Brooklyn provided to us. So, I mean, I guess that is, yeah. Now we have Maxie. How you doing, Maxie? Good to see you. And hello, Brooklyn. How are you? See, everybody speaking of Brooklyn. How you doing, Brooklyn? Brooklyn got more highs than Michael. Michael be up in here. Nobody say hey to Michael. Woo. I love Western culture dynamics. Nobody said hey to any of the men in the comment section today, but everybody said hey to Brooklyn. And look, I'm telling you, look, we had Michael in here, we had FX Trader in here, we had Steven in here. He's still in the comment section. We had Max Opposer, we had FX Trader, all men. Everybody said hey to Brooklyn. Nobody said hey to none of the other men that were on the channel. And this is what I was talking about when I said the dynamic is not the same. Um, uh, Casper. Special shout out to Casper. Yeah, I put him in timeout. He was out there while he was out there while, and I had put him in timeout because I was like, yeah, you got to stop these comments, young man. He learned he's got a good heart. He's just inappropriate at times. I think when they get bored, they're having one of those sleepovers, and then they decide to troll the podcast. I try to give them some patience because I strongly believe that eventually they're going to learn something and then they're going to realize that what I'm telling them is beneficial and then they'll actually start behaving. But you got to remember they're like 14, 15, 16 years old, so they're not actually um mature enough to know how to be responsible. They're at that age where Bart Simpson's prank calling Moe's Tavern for shits and giggles. But once they reach that age where they get a job and they go to work and people are prank calling them and they get annoyed as fuck about it, they're gonna realize how their asshole behavior negatively impacts other people. So so don't be too hard on them. But yes, I do agree with you that if he's not going to be appropriate, he needs to take his ass to bed. Is that Max's mother? Is that just your number one poser on another account? You know, it could be because people have the opportunity to create like 12 when a troller decides that they're going to troll, they typically create 3, 5, 7 accounts. Then they start logging in with one account, test play the account. When you get a reaction from the account, then all of their alts jump on there at the same time. So you'll see like 5 or 7 different after the main guy jumps in, you see 5 or 7 different troll accounts jumping shortly after that. Then you start having this wild ass flow of conversation from probably 1 or 2 people using 6 or 7 cell phones to try to trigger a reaction or response either from the comment section or from the host of the show. And if you block one, there's still like 4 or 5 others up there. So it is possible that he could be an alt. But I do know that TF Fireball is buddies with Max Opposer, who is Lucas Opposer. So coming in, I didn't even realize the name. Maxie's mother could be Max Opposer's mom, or it could just be somebody who's named Maxie and have their mom on there. So I don't put it past them until they do something completely atrocious, and then I'll actually have to ban them completely. But right now, they're kind of borderline right now. But that's okay. We've only got like 20 pages of information left, so we're about to wrap things up over the next 10 minutes. Well, not 10 minutes, probably 25, 30 minutes, because I do have a contract at like 4 a.m. that I got to deal with because I got a couple of customers in Asia that I got to talk to, uh, trying to close another deal. He says, why do people value women more than men? Uh, Good point. Men are tools. Society uses them. Men only have value when they're being productive for society. So um, everybody, men and women alike, only value a man when a man does something. Women actually produce children. That's like one of the things that they bring to the table since women have abandoned all the rest of the things that make a feminine woman valuable to a modern day relationship. And we've replaced that need with technology. So the desire to get laid, which is a primal instinct to procreate. So they're really only being nice to the girl because they want to sleep with the girl, not because she brought value to the conversation, not because she brought value to the environment. She's just there and able to be slept with, even if she's not going to allow them to do that. That's why guys are going to be nicer to girls because her value is her virtue, not her effort. His value is his effort. So nobody respects a man because if a man is not doing his part in society, he's a bum. He's worthless. But if a man is doing what he's supposed to do in life, why am I complimenting you? Because that's what you're supposed to do in life. Society spoils women and children and dogs. They don't have to do anything other than exist. Babies are cute because they're alive. Women are cute because they're alive. Dogs are cute because they're alive. Men must protect, provide, kill to make sure that everybody else is covered. So, because that's been the stereotypical norms, unfortunately, um, women are going to have more sociological and interactional value than men to the dynamic of they will receive more communication than men will. But truth be told, men actually have more value than women in society. It is just not respected value because the man's value is his assets, the car, the house, the ability to put food on the table, the money that he makes, the ability to get the girl what she wants or at least what she needs, the ability to take care of the kids, his career, his network, his social status, his lifestyle identifies her. So women date up the hypergamy theory. If she's a $50,000 a year woman, she wants a $75,000 a year man because her life will level up because she's dating that man. A lot of women get confused because she believes that when she's dating that $75,000 a year man, she's dating a man on her level. But truth of the matter is that a man that is on your level is a man that can do for you exactly what you can do for yourself, not more. So if she's a $50,000 a year woman and she's dating a $55,000 a year man who can do exactly for her what she could do for herself, which gives her the ability to not have to do it for herself, the lack of requirement for her to sustain her own responsibilities, where those responsibilities can be absorbed by her boyfriend or her husband, is a level up. But the women don't look at that as a level up because their standard of living stays the same. They only look at a good relationship is when their standard of living elevates because they get with this person, so they have to date a person that's better than them. So, truth be told, men bring more value to uh, uh, the interaction than women, and that's going to be one of the reasons why a lot of men identify themselves as a prize, and women don't like hearing that. But truth of the matter is that in society, a woman loses 23% of the income that she gained from being in a relationship when she breaks up, and a man gains 41% of the income that he lost while he was in a relationship, which ultimately means that 18% of the man's income that he was spending on his woman in a relationship was just to satisfy her personal desires because she only benefited from 23% of the financial income that she got from her boyfriend or her husband. So upon separation, the women lose status because they lose 23% of their income that was subsidized by their boyfriend, but the 18% of gifts and trips and everything to that effect also is a lifestyle shock. Men build themselves up when they lose a woman in a relationship because they gain back 41% of the money that they were wasting on that relationship, satisfying the woman's personal desires. If the woman was in a relationship to build a life of luxury, then she would build a relationship where two people live off of one income and invest the other income, where you can end up being a millionaire inside of 10 years, probably 20 years, but 10 years, definitely, if you're putting away 40, $50,000 a year. The fact is that then you would be living off the interest of $1 million or multi-million dollar portfolio where you could get that trips around the world and name brand clothes and all this, that, and the other, living off the interest and never touching the principal and not having to work again, instead of finding a man that makes 2 times your income so that you can quit your job, have 2 kids, and make the man struggle to pay for you and the 2 kids for the rest of his life. So the mentality of people is skewed in that dynamic. The effort of a woman to make her man $1 million man is what makes a woman valuable. And the women that just ride the coattails of $100,000 man are what makes men believe that women are leeches and gold diggers. Hopefully that answers your question on that. He said, no, this is not Max. This is just a random account. Yeah, you don't sound very confident, man. Just a random account. I didn't block Max. I just put him in several timeouts because he doesn't behave. So eventually the timeout will wear off and he will be able to come back into the comment section. I just hope that when he comes back that he's appropriate. Are there ticks in Europe like Luxembourg? Because I don't want to Europe itch or anything like that while I'm there. Well, okay, so maybe Brooklyn can answer that question if there's like ticks and fleas and stuff like that over in Europe. I understand that different countries have different situations where um, it's going to be a culture shock when you go over there and experience the livestock and the wilderness over there. But I would assume in the metropolitan areas, in the developed areas, that they're not going to have fleas and ticks and other such stuff that you would experience from a farm, specifically because it's a highly developed area. When you're thinking about Luxembourg, Europe, France, you're not thinking about fleas and ticks. You're thinking if there's the occasional mosquito, if you're outside at night, that's probably going to be the most that you're going to experience. But that's going to be one of the reasons why international health insurance and the requirement to get all your vaccinations before you travel is an expectation for anybody that's leaving any country and going to any other country, just in case there is something there that you wasn't expecting. Because we don't plan for everything, but what we do plan for is we plan for the expectations for you to be able to meet most of the known factors and have a little bit on the side to be able to articulate the X factor. He says family doesn't work on financial calculations, but clever principles, uh, though some look relevant, mostly this kind of advice won't fit for a man to be the head of the family. It takes real experience. Um, well, this particular discussion about Luxembourg wasn't about a man with a family. This particular discussion about Luxembourg was about a single man going to Luxembourg by himself. So no, the dynamic of going to Luxembourg on $3,600 a month is not for a family of three, family of five. Um, if you were trying to go to Luxembourg and start up a family, first and foremost, you have to recognize that the standard of living for Luxembourg is way higher than the France calculations that I'm giving you right now. You're probably going to need, like I said before, about $4,500 a month to live there by yourself as a single man. If you were going to Luxembourg to try to start up a family where you're going to have extra dependents, you're probably going to have to need more than $6,000 a month in order to take care of the wife and the kids. So, no, what we're talking about today is not you being a head of household in Luxembourg as a man from America or any other country trying to go to Luxembourg and try to set some type of family standard. If you're trying to, on a less than $50,000 a year income, go to another country and try to establish a family of three, family of five scenario, I would strongly encourage you to go to Southeast Asia, because if you go to Southeast Asia, anywhere in Southeast Asia, with their population control law, if one of the parents is a native and the child is born as a native, then they will pay for childcare. So 3 kids is not going to cost you extra money if you're living in Asia. But most other countries around, and you can do that in South Korea too, but most other countries around the world that doesn't have that child care calculation, it's going to cost more money to have kids. It's not going to cost more money to have kids in Japan or Thailand or Indonesia or Vietnam or the Philippines. Well, no, it might cost more money in the Philippines, but it's not going to cost that much in China or Japan or something like that, right? So yeah, I do understand that. He says attaining peace in life is more complex than rocket science and finance expertise. Well, if you're trying to obtain peace in life, as again a Miss America pageant answer, you have to first define what you consider peace in your life. If the stress in your life is the lack of finances, obtaining finances to overcome the financial obligations you have would give you peace. If stress in your life is due to the decisions of the people around you, having people around you to make better decisions would bring you peace, right? So if peace in your life might be stable housing, then finding a way to obtain stable housing will bring you peace. If peace in your life comes from having better health care because your health care isn't good enough, like we had Sterling on the show quite a few times talking about how his healthcare situation wasn't as satisfactory he would like it to be, which stressed him out because he had diabetes and didn't have the right diabetes medication. The peace in his life would be to get the right health coverage that will provide him with the medication that he needs so that he can live a better lifestyle. So it really depends. A lot of the times, the um, peace in life that people need comes from a financial decision that's not being made. It's not rocket science. You can't solve it with a theoretical equation, and not everybody's life is the same. However, a lot of the things that would cause you to lose your peace that does cost money can be compensated by if you factor in a larger financial budget that would accommodate for the inconveniences that would compromise your peace. Traveling to another country, budgeting more than what you need to make sure that you have enough to cover unexpected circumstances. Yeah, it's inconvenient, but I can afford it. If it wasn't an inconvenience that you could afford, now your peace is gone because you have a problem that you can't resolve. But if you can resolve the problem, yeah, it's inconvenient, but I can resolve it, right? It says the person wisdom in mind is using AI to comment for some reason. Oh, well, we got a lot of people with fake accounts on. So I don't know if they're gonna try to keep me on for the because I'm gonna give you at best another 30 minutes and I'm done because I got other stuff to do. I normally would have stopped an hour ago, but I had a lot of people on here providing a lot of positive information, even though we had a lot of people being inappropriate. So much respect to Brooklyn, Steven, FX Trader, Michael, OG Kicks, Barry, Daniel Barry. I respect the people who came here to learn something. So I'm trying to put a lot of information out there for the people who came to learn something. You know, but the show gets drug out because I do entertain some side topics because on this and that we talk about this, that, and everything in between. But the main topic that we were supposed to be covering today was supposed to be Luxembourg. I think because a lot of people were given that notice on the channel that when you come here to stay on topic, that they're deliberately going off topic to see how many people I'm going to ban off of the show because they're not following instructions. Um, and it's a failure on my part because I'm not refusing to acknowledge any comments that's not directly the Luxembourg topic, but I'm trying to be flexible to the new individuals that come to the show because if they stay here long enough and realize that you can learn and grow from the show, that you'll actually start behaving. Because a lot of people who came to the show started as trolls, actually came to the show, started learning things, and stopped trolling the show and started coming to the show to better their lives. And that's what I'm hoping that'll be the outcome for the new people that's coming to the show today. So as you come, you make sure that you like, subscribe, and mash those reaction buttons while you're here. Maxie says there's a contractor in Denmark. I think I'm going to work with and start building properties with his name. Is Gabe Horn. Okay. Should I take the deal with him and build multifamily duplexes. Any real estate investment opportunity, especially if you're going to do opportunity zones, is a benefit for you and the person that you're partnering with. If you're doing multifamily duplexes, then you can have multiple streams of income off of the same property. And if you're doing it in an opportunity zone, you're either going to get tax exemptions from the country or you're going to get government fund reimbursement for the development. So I recommend, no matter what country you're doing it in, that you try to aim your multifamily home redevelopment projects in special economic zones and opportunity zones that are benefited from the government, because every country around the world is offering some sort of government funded package that supports low income real estate development and at risk neighborhood redevelopment projects. So if you look into where those locations are, then you would be benefiting from that by far, and you would be able to have international income coming about. Because if you aid them with getting it started up, you let them run it. You can go travel the world while they're putting in all the effort. You're going to get less money than they're getting, but you're going to get money for not doing anything because you helped them get started. Also, one question before you go. Um, I live in Denver, Colorado. Should I meet someone in the States and stay here, or are there any countries with really good financial opportunities to start a family? Now, as a woman, you're going to have a problem with going to a lot of countries that are family oriented countries. And that's going to be because, one, the quality of the men in America are a lot more affectionate and a lot more flexible to the assertive behavior of the American women. Two, the ability to obey your husband and your boyfriend is going to be culturally ingrained in the social economics lifestyles of certain cultures. So you're going to be socially shamed for talking to your man like shit, where in America, girls are like, oh, get him, girl. So you have to really understand that certain cultures that you go to are not going to tolerate the assertive alpha boss lady behavior that American women bring to the table in the American Western culture. So if you're going to another country as a woman, you have to recognize what type of culture they have first. And if that is not what you're down for, don't go there to look for a man. You also have to recognize that outside of some of the wealthier third, fourth generation money in places like Asia, you have other countries where that is not Asia, where the men are not as successful as the men in America, because while Americans are broke, America is one of the richest places in the world because we spend way more money than any other country in the world. My thought is that if, because you're saying at least the part of Denver that I'm in sucks, you have two problems. You have one, you have to recognize if you are not finding yourself attracted to a specific type of man. Because if you're attracted to a specific type of man, you may subconsciously be familiarizing yourself with a toxic behavior pattern that you are normally used to. Probably that's the way you've seen people behave when you were younger. It could have been a lifestyle you had when you was a kid, but you resonate with toxic behavior and you don't feel comfortable with non-toxic men. So you don't find yourself attracted to toxic men. So you end up dating bad dudes, which is something that you have to recognize, that if that is a characteristic that you come to observe, you might want to start dating people that are not your type, and you might actually find the man that you need, even though that's not the man that you want. Okay. Because a lot of the times, women want the bad boy, because that's what they're used to, but they need the boring boy. That is the financial stability. There are good men in Denver, Colorado that might not be in the location that you're looking at them in, because good men are found at work, not at the club, not at the bar, not in a social function on after hours, at work, and potentially at the grocery store, not even at church. Everybody in the church is retired whores. You're not going to find quality people at the church. A lot of the churches are posers. So you're not going to find quality people at the church. You're going to find quality people doing everyday things. You're going to find a good man at a mechanic shop, working at the cash register at the Walmart, pulling a double shift at a McDonald's. You're going to find a good man that might be your waiter that gives you a little extra without you having to tip him, not because you're cute, but because he's seen that you were struggling today and he just wanted to make sure he put a smile on your face before you left, kind of thing. Those are the kind of men that you don't pay attention to, but that's where the good men are, because the majority of good men that make less than $75,000 a year are in manual labor work, hospitality work, warehouses, a service industry, and those are the men that you look past as you get your Starbucks coffee, as you get your car fixed, get your oil changed. The people that make your life better on your way to the register, those are the men that you don't pay attention to. The food that you eat when you eat out at restaurants are made by men because all restaurants in most places in America are run by men. The women are in the front because sex sells, so they put the attractive women in the front to sell the food, but all the men are in the back cooking the food. So one of the things, which is an irony, because when a man wants a woman that knows how to cook, it's because he wants to be able to take turns with her cooking or cook with her, not because he wants her to slave in the kitchen barefoot and pregnant, like oppression. So, because most men know how to cook, right? They do it for a living. So you might have a cook off with your husband if you find a man from a kitchen, right? And women don't think about that. So you might want to, if you're looking for a good man, you might want to go out to Ruby Tuesdays and then ask the cook to come out, whoever made your steak. And when he comes from behind the kitchen, ask him if he's single and ask him if he wants to go out on a date because that meat was rocking. You know what I mean? And you'll find you a really good man that way. But women don't think about that. That's one thing. No woman's ever asked me that, but I'm glad you asked me that. So if you can't find in Denver, Colorado what you're looking for, I would suggest before you start flying to other countries, because since you're in the culture that accepts women behaving the way women behave in Western culture, I would say try a different state first and then go to a different country that is not a Eastern traditional family oriented by demand culture design. Because if you go there, you're not likely to find the kind of man that you're looking for. If you're gonna like Western culture, like women run shit kind of thing, I'd say go to Switzerland, because Switzerland, the women are more like you're either gonna get in or you're not. She's either going to take you or you're not. And Switzerland would be the place to go for a Western American woman. Denmark would be a place to go for a Western American woman. But if you're trying to go to get to a really good dude, um, that is not going to compromise your current westernized upbringing. Dubai is not a place to go. Asia is not a place to go. Iran and India is not a place to go. That's just not good for you. It's going to be counterproductive to your goals. Hold on. He says your advice sometimes is going beyond finance and into what man character to be. Finance and peace of life are totally different. Please don't mix it. Well, I think wisdom, you need to like kind of like linger into the show and pay attention, because the show is not just about business and finance. The show is also about personal development. And this is a male driven podcast from the male's perspective. So it's more to teach men how to be better men and then teach men how to make money in better ways legally, and then teach men how not to waste the money that they made. So since that's the core dynamic of the structure of the show, part of the show is going to be about finance, and part of the show is going to be about what men character to be, the best character that a man can be to qualify for the best wife that a man can aim for. It's a two-part process. In order for you to find a valuable wife, you have to become a valuable man, which means you have to make valuable resources, which requires you to earn valuable money and then have valuable decision making skills, and then stand on non-negotiable expectations for behavior, so that when you get that valuable wife, that you are not squandering away your resources and you're not allowing yourself to choose a woman that's going to squander away your resources. That's a package deal. You can't talk about one scenario without talking about the other, because at the end of the day, you will end up fucking up somewhere where you made a bunch of money and then you found you a gold digger and spent it all. Or you made a bunch of money and you're bailing all your friends out of jail and you're wasting it all. You made a bunch of money and you're paying for your uncle's addiction and you're losing out on a good woman that actually is aiding you in your ability to be successful, but you're taking your success and giving it to somebody else's bad decisions, because you can fuck up a good thing with a good woman by making bad choices. So I'm not going to sit here and make it seem like women ain't shit, but I'm also not going to sit here and make it seem like men can't grow and learn and improve and then find a better quality woman. We have to identify what a bad woman looks like so that when we see a good woman, we know what we're getting. And then after that, we have to know what we need to do as men to earn the rights to be with a good woman. But once we earn the right to be with a good woman, then the good woman has to earn the right to be with that man, because it's not a one sided thing. This isn't a princess mentality where we're going to put the woman up on a pedestal and she doesn't have to do anything to deserve to be there. In order for you to be in this kingdom that I built, you are going to have to earn the right to be the queen. You're not going to tell me that you pre ordered a Tesla You waited 5 years for the Tesla to be exactly what you wanted. And then when you go to the dealership, that they're not going to do a fucking financial background check to make sure that you can afford that bitch. At the end of the day, you have to meet their standards before they sell you the product that you want. Same thing in a relationship. Once the man meets the standard of a woman, she now has to meet the standard of the man because he is everything that she wants. Now she needs to try to be some of what he wants. That's mutual respect, my guy. She says, I can't stand the way most American girls are today, disrespect and view themselves as the highest value in a relationship. Well, that is what corrupts the relationship dynamic because the multi-tier generation. Single families are raised by women, and the women are not teaching the women how to be good women to men, but the women are teaching the boys how to, cater to the women and be respectful and be chivalrous and all that and the other. So moms teach sons what to do to be good boys to women to some degree without actually teaching them how to be good men. So they have some foundational grounding, but no woman teaches any woman how to be a good woman to a man. You find that out from dad. And a lot of 82% of them are growing up without dads. So a lot of the women don't know what a good man looks like because they've never had one in their childhood. They don't know what good men look like because their brothers were not treating them that way. They don't have positive male role models in their life, and they were taught to do it on their own and be the man that she wants. And then the other problem is going to be is that once a woman becomes the perfect example of a man, she cannot find a man better than that. If she is a 10 out of 10 because she meets all the qualifications that a woman would think that a man is supposed to have, one, she's not valuable to a man because none of those standards matter to a man. But two, how can you find a man that's better than perfect? You actually shoot yourself in the foot. The more you make yourself a 10 out of 10 with your expectations of what you think is valuable in society, which is what women believe is what a man is supposed to do. That's what the women are going to do because they can't find a man that does that. The more you check off all the boxes yourself, how can you find a man better than that? Since you've become the epitome of perfection of what you believe a man is supposed to be, what women should do at that point is then find a man that does exactly that so that you can stop doing it. Then you've got the perfect guy because he does everything that you can do for yourself exactly the way you would want it to be done. Doesn't mean that you're going to get an elevation in life, but it does mean you're getting everything that you wanted because everything that you were doing for yourself, you don't have to do it anymore. But that's a change in perspective. He says the part of Denmark buildings is hard with blue zones, but if we get the permits, it can be big profits as long as my friend Mike Hawk can pull it off. It's a big profit. Really hit or miss. Well, every real estate investment opportunity is going to be a hit or miss situation. It just really depends on what you're dealing with. If you've got a local on the ground that kind of knows what he's doing, you got to put your faith on a crew that's doing a development. But if you selected the right economic zone, so you're going to find yourself in a situation where you guys are going to be reasonably successful. You're not looking at becoming a multimillionaire off of one real estate deal, but you are looking at turning a profit where you're getting more back than what you put into the deal at some point. He said, wisdom is mine is just using AI to seem wise. Uh, you know, yeah, you said that before, and I understand that. Like I said before, we got a decent quantity of trolls up in here that is putting in um, a decent quantity of chat GTP responses just to trigger a reaction. But I would prefer what they're doing now with putting in chat GTP reactions as opposed to the heckling that we were getting from Max the Poser earlier tonight, because I do want to keep the comment section appropriate and reasonably on topic. Now, back to the main discussion. What we were talking about before we kind of went down a massive rabbit hole. He says, also with the taxes, he is facing it going to be hard on him, but got a loan with it. And my other partner, Gabe, owns the owner got the loan that will make it work. Just got the confirmation of the permits. Let's go. Congratulations, Maxie. Well, if the three of y'all put it together and y'all make yourself successful, then more power to you. After the first one, every other one is going to be a lot easier. So, just don't give up, keep pushing. And as soon as y'all finish, or at least reasonably get to a transition point, you can start looking into trying to find another opportunity. Now, the reality of the quality of life on a budget of $3,000 in Luxembourg, as you have learned, is everything that we thought. The free parts is the best parts because you got the free transportation, you got the free parks, you got the free hiking, free city festivals. Your social life is going to become picnics instead of dining out because you're not going to be spending a lot of money since it costs so much money to stay in Luxembourg. So if you're staying in France to save money and then commuting in Luxembourg, you're not trying to spend a lot of money in Luxembourg. Your entertainment is going to be running in the forest, not going to movies. It's going to force you to be creative to find less expensive ways to entertain yourself since the cost of living in Luxembourg is so high, unless you're going to increase your budget to twice as much because we were talking about $3,000 a month. But if you were doing like $6,000 a month, then yeah, it would be possible to live directly in Luxembourg and do everything you want to do in Luxembourg. Uh, but it's also going to create a sense of being on the outside looking in. So you're going to walk past the beautiful glowing restaurants and know that that's going to be a world away from you. You're not going to be able to go in there and afford to do that on a regular basis. It's a good life, but it's a life with invisible walls built around it unless you're going to increase your budget. After a month of meticulous tracking and major compromises, you're going to find that it's going to seem to lay all of this information out. So if you have a $2,700 monthly budget, you find yourself with fixed essential expenses like $850 for the rent. The single biggest compromise that you're going to have. Renting in Luxembourg is going to be more expensive, and you're not going to be able to do it on a $3,000 a month budget. Utilities being 160, internet being 45, mobile phone being 20, giving you a subtotal of 225 plus the rent. Then your food and groceries is going to be like 350. Transportation from out of town into town maybe 80. And all of that without the transportation in Luxembourg, because transportation in Luxembourg itself is free, which is an extra of $1,550. And that's discretionary spending, which is going to cover your personal and socialization fees, like $50 for hanging out with people, personal care and clothes and stuff with $100, health buffer $50, giving you an extra total of $200 for discretionary spending, bringing your total amount to like 1,750, and using the remaining funds out of the $2,700, which is $1,045, giving you the capabilities to save about $500 for investing, with a remaining $545 for emergencies and any unexpected figures. Well, I'm glad that you're able to get in there and go and look at those duplexes and get those built. So as soon as you guys get those built, I'll be looking forward to hearing back from you after you've rented them all out, because turning a profit, yeah, once you get to the profit point, that's like the best part of the deal. Like getting there is the hardest part. Is a lot of people fall through before they get to the I'm getting paid part, right? So on paper, this can work out, but it ends up at the end of the month without debt and even saving a respectable amount of money. But it's going to require a spreadsheet that doesn't show the constant mental energy spent, because you're going to be spending a lot of mental energy on calculations and finding alternatives to stay inside of the budget. Your social invites is going to get turned down because you're not going to be able to afford to go to certain places, and the feeling of living in the country of immense wealth while counting every euro is not going to be a good feeling to have if you're trying to live on a fixed budget. So if you're trying to go to a place like Luxembourg, it would be a lot more beneficial to you to bring double what you think it would need to live a sustainable life. And that's something that not a lot of people think about. When people quote on social media how cheap it is to live in other countries, it is that price because you are living like the locals. If you want to live like an American in other cultures, it almost costs as much in another country as it does in America to live like an American in another country. Sometimes it might cost more. So, depending on where you go and how close to your Americanized lifestyle that you want to have, depends on how much it's going to cost you to go where you're staying. So, even if you can find a place where you can live in that country for under $1,000 a month, you have to recognize that if you're going to westernize that event, it might be $3,000 or $4,000 a month. And if you recognize that you're going to want to have as many American luxuries as possible, as many westernized luxuries as possible on your trip, if you recognize that you might be spending $4,000 a month on this trip, you might want to bring $8,000 a month with you so that you can cover any unexpected expenditures. So it's a lifestyle of saying no when you're going places on a fixed budget. No spontaneous dinners, no casual shopping, no gym, no forgetting to pack a lunch. So, you know, if you go back to the big question, can you live in Luxembourg and enjoy a famous quality of life on a $3,000 budget? The answer is complicated. Yes, but yes, you can survive if you rob Peter to pay Paul. I mean, you can pay your bills, you can eat, and even save money if you're incredibly disciplined. It's going to require you to be extremely frugal, but you can't really do it while living in Luxembourg. Not if you want your own place. I mean, if you were doing a studio apartment living with somebody, it might be possible. But if you're trying to go to Luxembourg and live in Luxembourg just off of your own income by yourself, it's probably not going to be possible on a $3,000 a month budget. You have to make foundational compromises. Live across the border in France and become a commuter. You trade your time and convenience for affordable rent prices. Now, did we get the quality of life that we were thinking about? Some ways, yes. The country is undeniably safe, clean, and very beautiful. Brooklyn made it clear to us on that. The free public transportation is a policy miracle, right? The access to natural lifestyle is going to be incredible there. Mother Nature out there is going to be very beautiful, right? Uh, a weekend there will be filled with free hikes and runs and stunning scenery, but in other ways, it's going to be a clear no that you can't live there because it's going to be a huge part of any city's quality of life that is participating in its culture and its social scene. So, on a budget of $3,000, you're almost completely excluded from that exact social scene that you were trying to be going out there for. You might find yourself as a spectator on the outside looking in, not as an actual participator of the events and activities. So the vibrant restaurants, the cozy bars, the cultural events, they might as well have been on another planet. Like Steven said, she probably going to be watching that shit from Zoom. We're not going to be not going on person. You know, it's going to create a strange isolation of living in a gilded cage where you can see the feast, but you're never invited to the table. So, my advice for anyone, if you're considering to make a move like this, don't underestimate the cost of housing. It will definitely define your experience. Based on this experience, I'd say that a single person should aim for a net income of at least $3,500 to $4,000 a month, if not more than that. Plus, bring an extra $8,000 for that down payment to move in, just to begin the life comfortably. Independent life in a city like this is going to come at a cost. Now, if you are expected a salary that is going to be below that, you must be prepared to either share an apartment or live across the border. An experiment like this proves that Luxembourg on a $3,000 a month lifestyle of stark contrast, because you're going to be surrounded by wealth, but most practice artistry. You have to access world class public infrastructure, but you can't afford a simple pizza in a restaurant. So was it even worth it? As a short-term experiment, trying to go out there and see what it's like, it's an incredible learning experience. But to live like that long term on such a small budget, it would be a grind. The constant financial pressure, that would be something that would wear you down, which ultimately, if we were talking about a lifestyle of peace of mind, that would not be the type of decision you would make. You wouldn't take a $36,000 a year lifestyle and go to Luxembourg. You might take a $60,000 a year lifestyle and go to Luxembourg. But if you've got to grind and you got to struggle, you don't want to go somewhere where you're pinching pennies, right? Luxembourg is a fantastic country, very beautiful. Brooklyn said it herself, but it is going to be one that's going to demand a high price for entry. It's going to offer that golden ticket, but only if you can afford to buy that golden ticket. And that's going to be the brutal reality of trying to make it in Luxembourg and have that life of rally on a $3,000 a month budget. Now, what was the most shocking cost for you guys? Was it the rent, the price of 2 slices of pizza? Make sure that you guys let me know in the comment section. And if you guys found this breakdown and all the side topics that went along with the breakdown useful, make sure that you guys give it a like. Consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already. Mash those reaction buttons for the upcoming shows that we have because they're scheduled all the way out through September. And make sure that you pay attention to more of the deep dives and the cost of living around the world because we cover something different every night of the week. Now, as I told you guys, we're going to be wrapping things up, and that's what we're doing right now. That's all I got for you guys for tonight. One more time, I want to give a special shout out for Brooklyn, Michael, Steven, Daniel Berries, Danny Steffen, OG Kicks, Max the Poser, TF Fireball. I want another special shout out to FX Trader for coming to this and that. I'm your host, Xander. Oh, here he is. Quick question. What REIT pays the most? Now, this is going to be where your opportunity cost really comes into play, Stephen. This is going to be a pretty reasonable question with a reasonable answer. So, if I remember correctly, Orchid Island pays 12 cents a share monthly. Ellington Residential, if I remember correctly, pays 8 cents a share monthly, and Prospect Capital pays 5 cents a share monthly. Now, the one that's going to pay the most under the current dynamic is going to probably be Ellington Residential because it is at about 22% return on investment, and the share price, if I remember correctly, is closer to $2 and some change, still getting that $8 a share. No, actually, if I remember correctly, no, Ellington Residential was right around 4. So it might be closer to $3.50 or $4 a share right now, where Prospect Capital was closer to $2 and some change a share. But the fact is that Prospect Capital giving you 10 cents for 2 shares for the same price as Ellington Residential used to give you 8 cents for 1 share. Now the prices have shifted where you might get 8 cents for 2 shares for the same price as 8 cents for 2 shares, where you might get 16 cents a share off of Ellington Residential versus 10 cents a share off of Prospect Capital. Now, Orchid Island giving 12 cents for 1 share. Still, Orchid Island is somewhat like $6 or $7 a share. So you might have 3 shares of either Ellington Residential or Prospect Capital, which means that you would likely have like 24 cents a share for a cheaper stock versus 12 cents a share for the more expensive stock. So I would have to double check what their current share price is versus the dividends per share that they would be providing to you. And then after that, I'd be able to tell you in the membership which one is ultimately producing the most. But if you're looking at just going off of the top of my head, the 22.9% return on investment for Ellington Residential right now today, I would say before I do the exact dollar for dollar calculations, Ellington Residential is going to produce the most return on investment out of the 3 REITs that we have right now. And I have selected the largest paying REITs out of all the REITs that do pay. So the 3 highest paying is going to be number 1, Ellington Residential, number 2, Prospect Capital, and number 3, Orchid Island, in that order at 22%, 20%, and 19.8% in that order. After that, it starts going down to 16%, 15%, 10%, 5%, 3%, stuff to that effect. Hopefully that answers your question. I appreciate you hanging out and being appropriate. When you go talk to Max the Poser, let him know that I didn't block him, but I made him take a time out because he wasn't being appropriate with Brittany, and I prefer that he not do that next time he comes back to the show. That's all I got for you guys for tonight. If you got some extra questions, make sure that you throw them into the membership. Send me some messages after the show. We'll be able to touch base. That's all I've got for you guys. I'm your host, Xander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. And I will see you guys tomorrow night.
Higher ground. Used to chase validation, now I validate myself. Building inner strength, putting doubt upon the shelf. No more unnecessary drama, no more wasted time. Climbing higher, constantly making my own climb. Standing on higher ground where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds, raising the bar, breaking ground. My network is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. Every interaction is a reflection of my brand. Quality over quantity, that's my personal command. I'm not landing on higher ground where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds, raising the bar, breaking ground. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never yield.